After graduating from high school, Lu Yu stood rooted in place, his gaze fixed on one particular person. To be precise, he was watching Su Wantong. She carried the poised beauty of a woman in her early 30s, dressed in an off-white knitted cardigan layered over a pale blue-collared shirt. The fabric stretched slightly across her chest when she leaned forward, creating a narrow gap at the neckline. At his age, every subtle physical detail easily captured his full attention, especially when it came to a graceful, good-looking adult woman like her. Lu Yu never thought there was anything odd about his observation. Standing diagonally ahead of him, Sun Yin shot him a familiar glare over her shoulder. Sun Yin was Su Wantong's daughter, a cold, aloof girl with her ponytail tied with flawless neatness. Just like Lu Yu, she had only recently turned 18, and her eyes always held a trace of disdain whenever they landed on him. Lu Yu paid her no mind whatsoever. His focus was firmly locked on her mother, Su Wantong, his English teacher. He had never expected to run into her here today. Lu Yu was just about to pull his wandering thoughts back to reality when the sky abruptly went pitch black. This was not the dimness of an overcast day. It was as if a colossal black cloth had been dragged down from the heavens. The corridor lights did not even flicker before the entire building was swallowed by thick, impenetrable darkness. A low, rumbling roar surged up from deep underground next, akin to a colossal beast stirring beneath the earth's crust. Every window shattered simultaneously, shards of glass hurtling inward. Lu Yu's only instinct was to lunge toward safety. Then came the floodwaters. Torrents of seawater flooded in through the broken windows. The entire building felt as though it had been crushed in a giant fist and tossed into a mixer. He tumbled violently in the raging current, cold seawater burning his lungs with every desperate gasp. Jagged glass sliced open his calf, and sharp table edges slammed hard against his ribs. In his final moment of consciousness, he clamped his arms tight around a broken metal lamp bracket torn loose from the ceiling, and the world faded to black. When he regained consciousness, Lu Yu was sprawled atop a crude wooden plank. He bent over and coughed up seawater for nearly 30 seconds, his throat raw and abraded as if scrubbed with sandpaper. Propping himself up with his arms, he scanned his surroundings. Water stretched endlessly in every direction, a dull iron-gray ocean surface. Unnervingly calm with no landmass, bridges, buildings, or other vessels in sight. A flat ash-gray sky hung overhead, lacking both sun and clouds, resembling a massive frosted glass dome sealed over the sea. He glanced down at his makeshift raft, loosely bound pine planks held together with frayed hemp rope. The wood creaked loudly under his weight, rusted nails working loose from the timber. A bamboo pole jutted upward from the raft's center, strung with a scrap of fishing line and a single bent fishhook shaped like a question mark. Lu Yu fell silent for 20 long seconds before a crisp chime echoed inside his head. Soul frequency matched successfully. Ocean survival system activated. Lu Yu's eyelids twitched sharply as he pieced together what was happening. Pale, translucent blue text materialized before his eyes, projected like a holographic display. Host: Lu Yu current vessel, dilapidated wooden raft level 1 stamina stat. 10 tenths standard adult male baseline. Physical fitness raises overall stamina. System coins, 0 newbie gift pack ×1 unopened as system. Lu Yu licked his parched, cracked lips. What the hell is going on? Host mental state confirmed stable. Downloading foundational world information. World background. Human civilization was annihilated in the Great Submersion event. All surviving humans have been transported to a global ocean world where water covers 95% of the planet's surface. Every survivor begins with a basic wooden raft to take part in an evolutionary trial. Resources and lethal threats are scattered across the open ocean. Survival hinges entirely on growing stronger. Core host objectives: survive, gather resources, upgrade your vessel, recruit crewmates, explore ocean zones, locate the world core. The sole victor earns the authority to reshape the world. Basic rules: fish to harvest marine life and random salvage materials. Higher grade catches grant more system coins, usable for raft upgrades, supply purchases, and crew management. Crew recruitment rule: only female crew members may be recruited, with a minimum evaluation score of 75 to board the raft. Crewmates can assist the host with all survival tasks. Important notice: you are currently situated within the Novice Bay, where environmental hazards are minimal. This safe period is temporary. Prioritize your first raft upgrade immediately. Lu Yu read through the floating text line by line, a slow grin spreading across his face. Graduate high school and get to rebuild the whole world straight away? He stood barefoot on the wobbly planks, spreading his arms and shouting out across the lifeless sea. I get thrown into a global apocalypse out of nowhere. His tone softened slightly, and the person I've admired for 3 years has vanished without a trace. The sea breeze carried his words away into nothingness, unanswered. He focused inward and unlocked his newbie gift pack. Obtained: purified water crystal ×1, compact nutrient paste ×2, low-grade bait seaweed balls ×5, tattered fishing net ×1, rusty dagger ×1. A chilled vial of fresh water materialized in his palm instantly. He twisted the cap open and chugged a large mouthful, soothing the burning ache in his throat. He squeezed out a tube of nutrient paste and swallowed it down. The thick, brackish substance tasted like damp toothpaste, but it settled the gnawing emptiness in his stomach and brought him back from the brink of exhaustion. He hefted the bamboo fishing rod and inspected the seaweed bait. Fishing it is, then. He molded a clump of bait onto the hook. The last time I held a fishing rod was back in 6th grade with my dad by the city moat. All I reeled in was an old leather shoe, so I've technically never gone home empty-handed. He flicked his wrist and cast the hook into the ocean water. 10 minutes passed before the float twitched faintly. 5 more minutes ticked by. Then the rod tip lurched downward with brutal force, yanking Luyu forward so hard he nearly toppled into the sea. He braced his legs and hauled back with all his strength as the system interface popped open automatically. Target detected. Unknown life form, high potential value, struggle force. Calculating stamina consumption. 8 points. Damn, that's some serious pulling power. Luyu gritted his teeth and reeled the line in, the bamboo bowing into a tight arc. A massive splash erupted on the water's surface, and a human figure was hauled onto the raft. The girl lay soaked on the rough timber, long black hair matted to her face with seawater dripping down her jaw and neck. Her white shirt clung damply to her frame, outlining her youthful physique clearly against the fabric. Her slender limbs trembled from cold and shock as she curled inward on the planks. A splinter of wood pricked her pale ankle, drawing a quiet hiss of pain from her lips. Luyu knelt down and brushed the wet hair away from her face, freezing the second he saw her features. It was Su Nian, Su Wantong's daughter, the cold beauty every boy in their class secretly admired, yet dared never approach. Truth be told, Luyu had never harbored romantic feelings for her. His admiration had always belonged elsewhere. Are you kidding me? Why'd I fish up Su Nian instead of her mom? Disappointment flickered across Luyu's face. Su Nian slowly blinked awake, her amber eyes clearing from disorientation until they locked onto Luyu's face. She jolted backward in alarm the moment she recognized him. You. She glanced down at her water-soaked clothes, then caught Luyu's fixed stare, quickly wrapping her arms around herself as her cheeks flushed bright red. Luyu, you pervert. What are you staring at? Mind your own business where I look. Luyu's tone was sharp and cheeky, yet a quiet sense of relief washed over him as he smirked. First check if you're unharmed before throwing accusations around. Su Nian paused, patting her arms and legs to confirm no severe injuries. Only then did the rigid tension drain slightly from her body. She scanned the endless ocean surrounding them, her pupils shrinking in terror. No familiar shorelines, buildings, or landmarks existed anywhere in sight. She parted her lips to speak, but only a hoarse, tearful breath escaped her throat. Su Nian. Luyu knelt before her and called her name. She lifted her tear-glistening eyes to meet his, her lips trembling uncontrollably. Still, she recognized his face, the boy who constantly stared at her mother in class. Labeled as useless by her own standards. He was not a monster or a stranger. He was someone she knew. She clutched the damp hem of her shirt tightly, her voice worn thin like sandpaper scraping wood. Where's this place? Where's my mother? Before Luyu could reply, the fishing rod jerked violently again. The exasperated, absurd smile returned to his face. The system notification appeared once more. Related life signature detected. Second target surfacing concurrently. Dual catch recommended. Stamina cost. 15 points exceeds current stamina cap. Authorize stamina overdraft? Authorize it. Luyu dropped the response without hesitation, sinking into a low stance as veins bulged along his forearms. I've already got plenty of debts to my name. One more won't make a difference. Another explosive splash burst across the water's surface, and a second figure crashed onto the raft. Luyu stared at the woman sprawled onto the planks, gasping for air as her chest rose and fell rapidly. His playful grin fading completely. It was Su Wantong, the woman he had quietly watched and admired for 3 full years. Talk about insane luck. Su Nian scrambled over and threw her arms around her mother, crying out in relief. Mom. Su Wantong struggled to catch her breath, relaxing only when she registered her daughter's voice. She pulled Su Nian tightly into her shaking embrace, her body trembling like a leaf in the wind. Beneath her waterlogged knitted cardigan that clung to her frame, she lifted her hands to cup her daughter's cheeks, repeating her daughter's name in a shaky murmur, until tears spilled freely down her face. Overwhelmed with relief that Su Nian was alive, her gaze drifted upward and landed on Lu Yu. Lu Yu. Her voice was rough and cracked from seawater inhalation. You survived this too? Lu Yu knelt before the mother and daughter pair, his gaze sweeping gently over Su Nian's tense shoulders, before settling briefly on Su Wantong's water-dampened collarbone, then lifting to meet her panicked eyes. Su Wantong instinctively pulled her daughter closer against her body for protection, yet fear tangled with desperate relief swirled plainly in her expression. She had reprimanded Lu Yu countless times for daydreaming during lessons, and once confiscated an adult magazine he had hidden in his desk drawer. Still, adrift in this boundless, lifeless ocean, this aggravating boy was the only anchor of familiarity she could cling to. System prompts flooded his vision. Scanning evaluating new crew candidates. Su Wantong female. Evaluation score 82. Su Nian female. Evaluation score 80. Confirm recruitment? Confirm. Lu Yu agreed immediately within his mind. Scores of 82 and 80 were impressively high ratings. Crew recruitment successful. Reward granted. 2 sets of level 1 fishing gear. Lu Yu sighed inwardly at the reward. It seemed his role was destined to be a fisherman for the time being, though the equipment would serve the 2 newly recruited women well. He closed the system panel and brushed a strand of soaked hair away from Su Nian's cheek with his fingertip. She snapped her head upward with a furious, tearful glare. Don't touch me. Su Wantong propped herself up and pulled Su Nian behind her, her chapped lips pressed into a tight line. As she faced Lu Yu directly, fear and wariness warred within her amber eyes as she spoke in a quiet, trembling tone. Lu Yu, how did we end up stranded out here? Lu Yu tore open the last tube of nutrient paste, squeezing a dollop onto his fingertip, and holding it out towards Su Wantong's mouth. Eat something first. I'll explain everything afterward. Hunger overrode her hesitation, and she leaned forward slightly to accept the paste into her parted lips. The thick paste tasted unpleasant, yet her starved body absorbed the nutrients desperately. She pulled back after a moment, swallowing slowly. Su Nian balled her soaked fists and stared hard away from the pair, the tips of her ears burning bright red. Lu Yu wiped the leftover paste from his finger and stood tall, surveying the vast gray ocean stretching to the horizon. Both mother and daughter watched his movement, Su Nian muttering creep under her breath, while Su Wantong's cheeks flushed with embarrassment. Dead calm water filled every direction, no seabirds, ships, or land visible anywhere. Only the flimsy 3-meter raft and 2 soaked women seated upon it. He drew in a deep breath and spoke to the empty air. System, awaiting host command. How do I upgrade this raft? Current upgrade requirement. Minimum 100 system coins. Coin acquisition method. Catch marine life and sell specimens through the system interface. Lu Yu glanced at Su Wantong and Su Nian huddled together on the raft, tasting the sharp salt of seawater lingering on his lips. Su Nian wept softly against her mother's arm, while Su Wantong stroked her daughter's back in soothing comfort. Seawater dripping down their clothes onto the wooden planks. Neither woman had fully processed their catastrophic new reality. From now on, I'll call you Sister Su. Lu Yu knelt down to match her eye level. I don't care how you lived your lives before this moment, but starting right now. He brushed a wisp of wet hair from the corner of Su Wantong's mouth with a gentle gesture, his tone steady and resolute despite his laid-back smirk. I will keep both of you alive out here. Complex emotions swirled within Su Wantong's amber eyes as she locked gazes with him. She had been drowning in terror mere minutes prior, and his quiet promise struck a resonant chord deep within her. She parted her lips, her voice still unsteady with residual fright. Lu Yu, explain this system and ocean survival trial to me clearly. I need to understand everything. Lu Yu lowered himself onto the rough planks and laid out the full truth in blunt, straightforward terms. The Great Submersion Disaster, the survival system, raft upgrades, fishing for currency, and the female crew recruitment rules. He delivered the explanation plainly, as if reciting a basic game tutorial. Su Wantong's complexion paled further with each word, forcing herself to stay composed, even as her lips trembled with distress. Her fingers squeezed Su Nian's hand tightly. Does that mean? Her voice dropped to a hollow murmur. Our homes, our school, everyone we knew, everything is gone forever? Most likely, Lu Yu answered honestly. Privately, he felt no urge whatsoever to return to his old life. Su Wantong closed her eyes, her chest heaving with ragged breaths. She turned her head aside, hot tears spilling down her nose and splashing onto the raft timber. In this moment, she was no longer the collected, disciplined English teacher her students knew. Sun Yin buried her face into her mother's shoulder, her shoulders shaking with quiet sobs. A long silence stretched on. Su Wantong wiped her tears away with her sleeve, drawing a shaky breath as hard resolve hardened her features. I won't ask any more questions for now. What is your immediate plan? Lu Yu broke into a grin at her resilience, far stronger than he had expected. A dark shadow glided beneath the water's surface far in the distance, leaving a thin dark trail in its wake. Simple. Keep fishing. He picked up the bamboo rod once more, baited the hook with seaweed, and cast the line back into the ocean. Beneath the ash-gray sky, the tiny ramshackle raft carrying 3 souls drifted slowly out toward the boundless dark blue sea. Lu Yu could not deny his incredible luck. His very first haul had pulled in the woman he had long admired, alongside her daughter. He wondered what creature or person would bite the hook next. No words were exchanged for a long while as each person aboard the raft was lost in their own tangled thoughts. Su Wantong held her daughter tight on one end of the raft, shivering violently as cold wind cut through her saturated clothing. She pressed Sun Yin closer to share bodily warmth against the harsh sea breeze, her mind reeling from Lu Yu's revelations of global submersion, supernatural systems, survival trials, and the chance to remake the world. She had never imagined witnessing the end of humanity as she knew it. Everything familiar had vanished without a trace, and countless acquaintances were likely lost to the floodwaters forever. She tightened her grip on Sun Yin's shoulder, grateful beyond measure that her daughter had survived alongside her. Sun Yin's soaked white shirt clung to her shoulder blades, her spine hunched inward from cold and anxiety as she nestled against her mother's chest. Her eyes never left Lu Yu's form. This boy who once stared endlessly at her mother in class was now their sole hope of surviving this hellish ocean wasteland. She bit down on her lower lip, torn between resentment for his past inappropriate staring and crippling fear that he might abandon them when they needed him most. Lu Yu crouched at the opposite end of the raft, glancing briefly at the mother and daughter pair before swallowing dryly and refocusing his full attention on the fishing line. He adhered to a simple survival mindset. Acknowledge his gratitude for their presence, but prioritize critical tasks first. There would be plenty of time to interact later. They could not leave this raft even if they wished to. The float bobbed with subtle movement on the water. Got a bite. Lu Yu lowered his voice, tensing his body. Both Su Wantong and Sun Yin instantly lifted their heads to watch the rod. The float dipped halfway below the surface, rose back up, then plunged underwater completely. It was not the tentative, pecking nibble of a curious fish, but a heavy tug that told him something had firmly clamped down on the hook and was trying to drag the bait away. Lu Yu did not lift the rod right away. Instead, he let the fishing line slack another 2 inches, waiting for the moment the fish fully swallowed the hook. This was a trick his father had taught him back when they fished beside the city moat. Fish always test the bait with a first bite. The second strike is when they swallow it whole. The float suddenly vanished beneath the water's surface. Damn it! Lu Yu flicked his wrist and snapped the bamboo rod upward, the fishing line pulling taut like a stretched bowstring. Whatever was hooked underwater bolted toward open water in a frantic dash, bending the bamboo rod into a deep, curved arch. He was surprised by how tough the bamboo was, holding strong without snapping. Then he remembered the rod was a reward from his system, so its exceptional durability made sense. What tremendous strength! Lu Yu planted his feet wide and leaned backward, gripping the rod tightly with both hands as his boots scraped hard against the slippery wooden planks of the raft. Sun Yin, come help me. Sun Yin froze for a second. Me? Of course. Grab hold of the rod. Biting her lip, Sun Yin crawled over and seized the rear section of the rod behind Lu Yu. Quit brushing up against my waist. I'm not touching you at all. Sun Yin's cheeks flushed bright red all the way to her earlobes. You were the one who called me over to assist. Just grip the rod properly instead of grabbing my body. I didn't. Forget it. Sun Yin gritted her teeth in frustration, yet never loosened her grip. She leaned her entire weight backward, her ponytail swiping across Lu Yu's shoulder and carrying the briny tang of seawater. Pulled by the combined force of 2 people, the creature thrashed even more violently beneath the waves. The raft drifted sideways half a meter, the bound wooden planks creaking and groaning under the strain. Su Wantong also scrambled over, kneeling behind her daughter. She wrapped her hands around Sun Yin's from either side of her waist, stacking her palms over her daughter's to add more pulling power. Hold fast, Yin Yin. Her voice trembled from exertion, but her steady, reassuring presence calmed Su Nian's shaking hands. Su Wantong's ragged, warm breath fanned across the nape of Lu Yu's neck, carrying a damp, humid scent. A faint smirk tugged at the corner of Lu Yu's mouth. "Ms. Su," he gritted out while reeling in a small length of line. "Move a little closer forward. I can't get enough leverage here." "All right, that's plenty close enough." Su Nian rolled her eyes from behind him, but dared not let go, muttering quietly under her breath. "Creep. What did you say?" Lu Yu kept reeling in the line without turning his head to look back. "I said, hang on to the rod. The fish is getting away." Right as she spoke, the submerged creature lunged forward violently, yanking all three of them a step forward together. Su Wantong's toe caught in a crack between the planks, sending her stumbling forward abruptly. "I'm so sorry," she scrambled backward in a panic, her voice cracking and her ears burning crimson. "It's fine." Lu Yu's voice turned hoarse. He welcomed this small mishap if it meant extra help against the fish. "Focus on the catch. Pull harder." The bamboo rod was bent to its absolute limit, churning up a large patch of white surf on the water's surface. A silvery silhouette twisted within the murky water, roughly half a meter long, its scales glinting with a cold metallic sheen beneath the pale, overcast sky. His system interface popped open automatically, scanning angling target data. Target: iron scale fish tier 1, edible, length, 0. 5 meters, salvageable materials, fish bones, fish hide, value, 20 system coins, no special abilities, thrash level, 13/30 dangerous. Note: higher thrash levels make fish harder to reel in and drain the angler's stamina far quicker. If a target's thrash value exceeds the angler's stamina stat, the fish may break free, attack, or injure the user. Warning: current thrash value slightly surpasses your stamina. Proceed with caution to avoid injury. 20 coins total. Lu Yu huffed a strained laugh, paying little mind to the warning about thrash levels. Good enough for a meal. The system only redeemed bones and hide, so the fish meat would not go to waste. "Who are you talking to?" Su Nian panted heavily from exhaustion. "My system. I can exchange salvaged fish parts for currency." Lu Yu leaned backward, hauling the rod toward his chest. "Put in one last push. It's wearing itself out." He had no reason to hide the system from them forever, trapped together on this tiny raft. The three pulled as one, yanking the rod upward sharply. The iron scale fish broke free of the water, its silvery body arcing through the air before slamming heavily onto the wooden raft, its tail smacking frantically against the planks. Lu Yu dropped the fishing rod, lunged forward, pinned the fish down with his knee, and struck its skull solidly with his fist. The iron scale fish convulsed twice before falling completely still. Thrash level, 0/30, safe silence hung over the raft for 2 heartbeats. Lu Yu gasped for air, his tattered outer jacket soaked all the way through with sweat down his entire back. He lifted his knee off the fish, flopping onto his back atop the planks, and staring up at the dull gray sky with a weary laugh. "Man, that took everything out of me, but we finally got it." Su Nian collapsed onto the wood beside him, her arms heavy and leaden with fatigue, bright red indentations left on her palms from the rough rope. She stared down at her stinging hands, then at the large silver fish, her lips parting without uttering a single word. She had not expected the fish to grow so large, explaining why all three of them were needed to haul it aboard. Su Wantong pushed herself upright using the raft planks, her chest still heaving with rapid breaths. She watched Lu Yu's sweat-slick profile, blending the quiet young man who had often glanced her way with the decisive leader directing their efforts against the fish, leaving her momentarily lost for words. After catching his breath for a dozen seconds, Lu Yu sat upright. He pulled a worn dagger awarded in the system's beginner pack from the raft's corner and sharpened the blade against the sole of his shoe. "Does either of you know how to clean a fish, Miss Su?" Su Wantong blinked and shook her head. She was skilled at cooking meals but never handled whole live fish, always buying pre-cleaned portions from market vendors. "What about you?" Lu Yu turned towards Su Nian. Su Nian hunched her shoulders nervously. "I don't know how either." Lu Yu studied her for a moment, then broke into a lopsided grin. "All right then. I'll handle all the fish cleaning from here on out on this raft." An odd twinge of unease stirred in Su Wantong's chest. His statement carried a weight beyond simple responsibility for preparing their food. A strange reversal of circumstance unsettled her deeply. This young man who once only watched her from afar had now become the sole lifeline, keeping her and her daughter alive on the open sea. She felt uneasy yet had no other viable choice but to rely on him. Lu Yu knelt beside the fish with the dagger, slicing open its belly with practiced, fluid movements honed by countless repetitions. Su Wantong and Su Nian knelt nearby to watch as he scaled the fish, gutted it, and neatly separated the meat from the skeleton, extracting the intact bones and peeling off the whole hide cleanly. I worked at a seafood restaurant down by the docks for a while. Lu Yu explained without looking up from his work. I cleaned up to 80 fish every single day back then, so I've gotten pretty fast at this. As Su Nian watched his focused hands working methodically, she noticed for the first time the precise dexterity in the fingers of this classmate everyone had written off as useless. Once the fish was fully processed, the pale white flesh was cut into neat chunks and laid out on the wood surface. Lu Yu spoke aloud to the air. System, I am here. Redeem the fish bones and hide. Leave the meat intact for us. Confirming redemption. Tier 1 iron scale fish bones and hide exchanged for 20 system coins. Funds deposited successfully. The system panel updated instantly. Current system coin balance. 20 coins total. Lu Yu licked his parched, cracked lips. I need 80 more. His top priority was upgrading their shabby raft into a safer, more stable shelter. He had no desire to spend their long-term survival stranded on this flimsy floating platform. Lu Yu picked up a chunk of fish flesh, rinsed it briefly in seawater, and bit directly into the raw meat. A fresh, sweet ocean flavor spread across his tongue, surprisingly palatable even uncooked. Su Wantong and Su Nian exchanged a hesitant glance and made no move toward the fish. Lu Yu swallowed his mouthful and wiped his mouth with the back of his hand. Why aren't you eating? It's raw fish, Su Wantong replied hesitantly. These are desperate circumstances. Be grateful we have any food at all. Lu Yu held out another piece toward her. You expended plenty of energy hauling in the fish earlier, Ms. Su. You'll weaken fast without nourishment. Su Wantong hesitated briefly before accepting the fish meat. She wrinkled her brows the moment the cold, slick flesh touched her tongue, tinged with faint brininess. Yet overwhelming hunger overpowered her discomfort. She forced herself to chew and swallow, a warm, comforting sensation spreading through her empty stomach. Watching her mother eat, Su Nian took a piece for herself and choked it down with a grimace. Fresh ocean fish is generally safe raw, Lu Yu explained as he chewed his meal. The old restaurant boss back on the docks would often ask me to cut him thin raw slices as a drinking snack. Su Wantong ate 2 more portions before breaking the silence. Lu Yu, you mentioned your system only hires female personnel earlier. That's correct. Is there a specific reason for that rule? Lu Yu shrugged while chewing his fish. No clue. Those are just the system's fixed terms, plus recruits need an evaluation score of at least 75 to qualify. Su Wantong fell quiet for a moment before asking another question. Do you plan to recruit many more people eventually? It depends entirely on their usefulness. Lu Yu swallowed his food completely. I have no reason to support anyone who cannot contribute to our survival out here. His words were clearly directed toward the mother and daughter beside him, a quiet reminder that their continued safety on the raft depended on them pulling their weight. Su Wantong nodded and dropped the subject, yet her thoughts raced uneasily over the system's strange female-only recruitment rule. It meant both she and Su Nian must have evaluation scores above 70. She could not help but fear the system was guiding Lu Yu down a troubling path. She had confiscated enough risque novels from her daughter over the years to recognize the common trope of systems built for building personal harems. She dared not dwell too deeply on the unsettling possibility, focusing solely on keeping herself and her daughter alive for the time being. Su Nian's chewing slowed noticeably as she pondered the same worrying thought. She glanced quickly at Lu Yu, then stared back down at the wooden planks. Among all the boys in their class, he was already known for openly leering at women, and now this exclusive female recruitment system had placed her and her mother entirely under his protection with no escape. The arrangement felt dangerously vulnerable, yet she held her tongue with her mother sitting right beside her. Daylight faded rapidly. The dull gray sky darkened to heavy charcoal black, and the frigid sea wind cut through their waterlogged clothes, sending icy chills deep into their bones. Su Nian curled into a tight ball with her knees drawn to her chest, her lips tinged purple as her body shook uncontrollably from the cold. Su Wantong pulled Lu Yu's oversized jacket tighter around herself, though her own soaked garments clung to her skin like sheets of ice. She desperately wanted to remove her saturated clothes to warm up, but restrained herself with Lu Yu present on the raft. After finishing the last bite of fish, Su Wantong looked between Lu Yu and her shivering daughter, her voice trembling with cold and anxiety. What are we going to do to get through the night? Before Lu Yu could respond, the system notification flashed across his vision once more. Night weather forecast. Air temperature will drop to 11 degrees Celsius, wind strength rising to level 4. Your current clothing is fully saturated with water. Perceived temperature will fall below 7 degrees Celsius. Warning: prolonged exposure to wet, frigid conditions exceeding 3 hours will put you and your crew at severe risk of hypothermia. Secure warmth and shelter immediately. Notification: you have accumulated 20 system coins. Unlocking the Tier 1 system shop. Browse available cold-resistant supplies via your interface. Lu Yu's eyes widened in surprise. There's a shop? He immediately called out in his mind. Open the shop interface. A pale blue digital panel unfurled before him, lined with rows of survival goods that made his eyes widen sharply. Tier 1 system shop. All items priced at 100 coins or less. 1 liter fresh water. 5 system coins. Single nutrient compression bar. 3 system coins. Windproof lighter. 10 system coins. Basic cookware set. 15 system coins. Single dry towel. 8 system coins. Quick dry undergarment single. 12 system coins. 1M x 1M waterproof tarpaulin. 10 system coins. Folding utility knife. 15 system coins. Basic first aid kit. 25 system coins. 2-piece blanket set. 1.2M x 1.8M. 20 system coins. He scrolled down to the next page of listings. Tier 2 shop. Locked, requires raft upgrade to Tier 2. Could have mentioned the shop existed sooner, Lu Yu muttered, annoyed by the system's lack of initiative. A single liter of water cost 5 coins, a towel 8 coins, and cookware 15 coins. The prices seemed reasonable on the surface. Yet purchasing any of these supplies would delay his goal of upgrading their raft indefinitely. Still, freezing to death overnight was a far worse outcome. He scanned the cheapest essential goods repeatedly. The lighter and tarpaulin each cost 10 coins. Yet the damp wooden raft had no dry kindling for fire, and burning materials on their small raft was far too hazardous. The 1-meter tarpaulin could only cover their upper bodies, leaving their legs exposed to the bitter wind. His gaze settled on the 2-piece blanket set for 20 coins. The thick fabric could be used both as padding and a cover. The steep cost was justified if it kept all 3 of them from succumbing to hypothermia that night. Lu Yu gritted his teeth and confirmed the purchase on his interface. Purchase confirmed. 1 2-piece blanket set, 20 system coins deducted. Updated system coin balance, 0. A thick taupe blanket materialized out of thin air atop the raft, its rough, sturdy weave carrying a faint neutral textile scent. A second thinner blanket appeared alongside it to complete the matched set. Su Wantong and Su Nian stared in stunned silence at the blankets. Lu Yu shook open the thick blanket and tested its thickness, sufficient to block the harsh ocean wind effectively. Yet he frowned upon seeing their water-soaked clothing clinging to their bodies. Blankets alone won't solve the problem, he said bluntly. Wearing soaked clothes under layers of blanket will still leave you freezing all night long. Su Wantong understood his meaning instantly, her cheeks flushing faintly in the dim darkness. You mean we have to take our wet clothes off? Remove the saturated clothing and wrap yourselves fully in the blankets to retain body heat. Sun Yin's head shot upward in protest. We can't do that. Then sleep in your soaked clothes, Lu Yu replied flatly. If you develop a fever tomorrow from hypothermia, you'll be left behind in the ocean. You're being unreasonable. He is right. Su Wantong cut off her daughter, her voice soft but solemn. Wet clothing will make us seriously ill if we keep it on overnight. We have 2 blankets, Sun Yin argued stubbornly. Can't we split them up and sleep separately? These blankets are designed as a matched set meant to be used together. Lu Yu declined instantly. The rare chance for mutual warmth was too vital for their survival to pass up. Su Wantong saw through his underlying intentions. Yet the agonizing cold of her soaked clothes was unbearable enough to override her reservations. She had long noticed his unabashed stares toward her in the past, yet their desperate predicament left her with no other solution. Sun Yin glanced at her mother, eyes glistening with distress, and fell silent without further pushback. Su Wantong drew a deep breath, standing with her back turned toward Lu Yu as she slowly unbuttoned her soaked blouse. Her fingers trembled with embarrassment as she undid each fastener one by one. The waterlogged fabric slid down her shoulders, revealing pale skin washed pale by seawater and the soft curve of her spine. Water droplets trailed down the hollow of her waist, pooling into dark, damp patches on the wooden planks beneath her feet. Sun Yin bit down hard on her lip and also turned her back, stripping off her own soaked shirt with stiff, nervous movements. Her slender shoulder blades stood taut against her damp skin, her wet hair plastered down the center of her back. Water dripped along the indent of her spine down toward her narrow waistline. She covered her chest tightly with her arms and spun back around, hunching her frame inward while fixing her gaze rigidly on the gaps between the raft planks, her ears burning bright red. Lu Yu stayed seated on the opposite end of the raft, his gaze sweeping gently over their silhouettes as his Adam's apple bobbed. He did not linger on unnecessary details, quickly removing his own waterlogged outerwear and tossing the damp fabric aside. Sun Yin stole a quick glance at him, inwardly admitting his defined abdominal muscles were more toned than expected. Su Wantong caught sight of his physique as well, yet remained outwardly calm and composed. Lu Yu unfolded the thick blanket and spread it across the center of the raft before lying down on the right side. Who wants to lie in the middle? He left the decision to the two of them. Mother and daughter hesitated, staring at Lu Yu's reclined form. Sun Yin stepped forward intending to claim the middle spot first, but Su Wantong moved faster. She guided her daughter onto the blanket first before settling herself between Sun Yin and Lu Yu, curling an arm protectively around her daughter and resting her back against Lu Yu's direction. Lu Yu blinked in quiet surprise before a faint smile tugged at his lips in the dark. This woman he had noticed for 3 years was sharp-witted and quick to act, placing herself as a barrier between him and her daughter. It was exactly the protective dynamic he had anticipated, as he had never held any personal interest in Sun Yin. I should be the one in the middle, Sun Yin protested, wary of leaving her mother alone beside Lu Yu. She had rushed to block them earlier only to be outmaneuvered by her mother's quicker reaction. Be sensible, Su Wantong spoke with quiet firmness, her tone leaving no room for further argument. Sun Yin knew better than to defy her mother's decisions once made. Keep yourself in line tonight, Lu Yu, Sun Yin warned sharply. Lu Yu let out a quiet chuckle, familiar with her threats after 3 years of their awkward classroom interactions. Threatening to feed me to the fish again? He said nothing more, lying on his side and tugging the edge of the blanket over his body. The moment his body rested close against Su Wantong's back, he could feel the cold, rigid tension in her muscles. Hardly any space existed beneath the fabric wrap, their body warmth slowly seeping into one another in the enclosed space. Su Wantong's entire frame tensed stiff as a slab of wood. Lu Yu faced her back directly, his steady breath falling on her neck. The warmth seeped into her skin and bloodstream, sending a flush across her ears. The front of his torso pressed against her back with only the thin blanket separating them, his body outline hard to ignore. His warm body shielded her from the frigid ocean air. Her heartbeat raced in the darkness, and she squeezed Sun Yin's hand, forcing her mind to focus on keeping her daughter safe and warm through the long, cold night. Her mind raced frantically. Was he doing this on purpose? Would he reach out to her? Would he? She remembered every glance he cast toward her chest. She was well aware that Lu Yu harbored romantic feelings for her. Yet Lu Yu never laid a hand on her. He did not even shift his posture, merely lying there quietly. Su Wantong could feel his breathing gradually steadying. The rise and fall of his chest brought a reassuring rhythm. Minutes later, Sun Yin's breathing also grew calm. She was utterly worn out, catching fish, cooking the catch, stripping off their soaked clothes, huddling together for warmth. The events of this single day outweighed everything she had experienced in the past 18 years. Her body slackened in her mother's embrace. The tight grip on Su Wantong's fingers loosened, and her eyelashes drooped shut. Su Wantong remained wide awake. Warmth was building beneath the blanket. Lu Yu's body heat seeped into her from behind, while Sun Yin's warmth wrapped around her front. At last, the shivers racking her skin subsided. She rested her chin atop Sun Yin's head and stared out at the sea, her thoughts muddled and scattered. Once, every look he directed her way filled her with dread. Now she needed to lean against his bare chest to survive. What an absurd predicament this was. She squeezed her eyes shut hard. Lu Yu stirred suddenly behind her. His chest pressed faintly into her back. His lips hovered above her neck as he spoke. Su Jia, what do you want? Her throat felt tight and parched. Hiding yourself in the middle won't change a thing. A cheeky smirk laced his voice. If I intended to do something, do you truly think you could stop me? Su Wantong stiffened from head to toe. For the record, I feel nothing toward the child. Those words froze Su Wantong completely. It meant his affections were directed solely at her. Lu Yu shifted backward, widening the gap between them slightly. We're both worn out. Get some rest. He was genuinely drained, mentally and physically exhausted. Sharing this space was enough for now. He silently cursed his system for failing to reward him with stamina-boosting items. Su Wantong bit down on her lower lip. Deep down, she had prepared for anything, only for Lu Yu to pull back. A faint sense of letdown washed over her. It had been years since she was close to a man. Being held by him tonight stirred unfamiliar emotions, yet pride stopped her from making the first move. Her body relaxed a little. Mutual warmth trapped under the blanket pushed the cold back. Sea breeze slipped in through the blanket's edges, only to be repelled by the heat from their skin. Out on the midnight ocean, a rickety 3-meter wooden raft carried 3 bare figures, drifting in the black waters. Something large glided beneath the surface far off, never drawing near. The system panel flickered then faded. Ambient temperature, 11 degrees Celsius, wind force, level 4 insulation measures active, core body temperature maintained within safe thresholds. 20 credits bought them a full night of safety. It was well worth the cost. When morning came, they would resume fishing. Lu Yu kept his eyes closed in the dark. Tired as he was, sleep eluded him. After all, the woman he had admired for 3 years was pressed against his body. It was natural for his heart to stir. Su Wantong could not fall asleep either. A young man's torso pressed against her back. His breath fanned across her neck, raising goosebumps on her skin. Her mind begged for sleep, yet her body refused. Her flesh was more honest. Every spot warmed by Lu Yu's body tingled. Heat built beneath the blanket. Su Wantong could feel moisture evaporating from her skin, sweat mixing with sea mist. Her back grew sticky. She shifted subtly, hoping to create a gap. But the blanket had little room. Her knee bumped into Su Nian's leg. Su Nian whimpered in her sleep and rolled onto her side. Su Wantong froze to keep her undisturbed. She settled back, pressed tighter against Lu Yu's chest. Lu Yu registered her movement. The warmth and tremors from her body seeped into his skin. He kept his eyes shut and rumbled. "Why are you squirming around, Sujia?" Su Wantong tensed up. "I'm not moving. You clearly just did." Silence hung in the air. "Can't sleep?" Su Wantong said nothing. Her ears burned in the dark. Every word Lu Yu spoke sent warm breath over her neck. His chest rose and fell against her spine. His lips were close, his voice making her heart race. She bit her lip and focused on her daughter. Su Nian breathed evenly in her embrace. Assured the child was asleep, she whispered, "Move away from me a little." "There's nowhere to go." Lu Yu replied bluntly. "This raft is barely wide enough. I'm almost off the edge. Could you scoot over toward her side then?" Su Wantong didn't stir. It would push Su Nian out from under the blanket. "What are you?" Her voice dropped to a panicked whisper. "Just keeping us from freezing," Lu Yu said lazily. "My hand has nowhere to rest pressed up against your back. Is it really such a big deal to rest it lightly on your waist? Take your hand off me." "Your waist." He made no move to pull away, his tone slow and deliberate. "I noticed it back when I was your student in class. I always thought this waistline of yours was..." "Lu Yu." Annoyance edged her hushed voice, quiet enough not to rouse Su Nian. "I'm your senior." Lu Yu let out a quiet laugh. "Right now, you're my crew member, and I'm the captain of this raft." Su Wantong's breathing quickened sharply, her chest heaving with uneven breaths as she tightened her grip around Su Nian's hand. "Sujia." No response came from her. "Did you ever notice me staring at you back then?" His tone was casual, as if discussing an ordinary triviality. Su Wantong's face burned hot in the darkness. "Stop talking about this. I also caught glimpses when you bent over to grab things, the fabric of your shirt riding up just enough to see." "Lu Yu." Her voice trembled visibly. "Please stop." "Why should I?" His fingertip traced a faint arc along the curve of her waist. "You're lying bare against me right now. Do you honestly think a simple plea will make me ignore how close we are?" Su Wantong pressed her lips into a thin, tight line, her chest rising and falling rapidly as her body trembled. Uncertain if the shivers stemmed from lingering cold or the whirlwind of emotions swirling inside her. "Did you watch me every single day back then?" A faint, near-breaking tremor lingered beneath her words, spoken in a feeble attempt to defuse the charged atmosphere between them. "I watched you every chance I got." Lu Yu answered candidly. "I'd doze off when you weren't around, but the second you appeared, I was wide awake and fully alert." Su Wantong squeezed her eyes shut. She had never imagined ending up curled against his bare body out in the open ocean, listening as he recounted every small detail he had observed about her figure over the years. "Aren't you worried Nian will wake up? She's sleeping far too deeply to stir anytime soon." Su Wantong clamped her lips shut, a heavy lump lodging in her throat and robbing her of the ability to speak. She wavered on the edge of yielding to the moment, held back only by the child sandwiched between their bodies. Lu Yu wanted to grow closer, yet Su Nian's position blocked any further movement between them. The prolonged, gentle teasing had long since stirred ripples of emotion within Su Wantong. She could not deny Lu Yu's good looks, bright, striking features paired with a firm, sturdy physique she had glimpsed earlier that evening. This was the apocalypse. All the old social restraints that governed their interactions no longer held meaning. Perhaps there was no harm in letting this moment unfold naturally. Survival in this brutal world meant accepting such unforeseen connections sooner or later. She had realized this the moment Lu Yu stated he would only take female crew aboard his raft. Slowly, her grip on Su Nian loosened. Resolve settled over her, and she gathered the courage to voice her thoughts. Lu Yu, if you're going to close the distance between us, don't hold back halfway. Lu Yu let out a soft chuckle in the dark. I wish we could take things further, but Nian's body is taking up all the space between us. Any more movement would disturb her sleep. Su Wantong gently shifted Su Nian away from the narrow gap between herself and Lu Yu. Lu Yu immediately closed the small opening she had created. Su Wantong's body went taut in an instant, her breath catching in her throat as her fingers clutched tightly onto the edge of the blanket. Don't come to regret this, Sujia. Su Nian slumbered soundly on the other side, her soft murmurings muffled by sleep. The wooden raft rocked faintly amid the dark waves. Su Wantong sank her teeth into her lower lip, her fingernails digging lightly into Lu Yu's forearm. Sea wind seeped through the blanket's gaps, only to be blocked by the warmth emanating from their bodies. The sea stretched pitch black and endless into the far distance. The system panel flickered once more in the shadows, issuing no new notifications. Beneath the iron-gray sky, vast seawater rocked the raft back and forth gently throughout the long night. It was the first time Lu Yu had been this close to the woman he had admired for 3 long years. When dawn broke, Lu Yu stirred awake with a chill biting into his back. The blanket had slipped open at some point during the night, letting frigid sea air wash over his skin and draw a small shiver from him. He turned his head to look over. Su Wantong lay with her back to him, her shoulders exposed to the crisp morning air, marked with faint reddish indentations left from their close contact, her breathing slow and deep in sleep. Su Nian curled tightly into her mother's torso, wrapped into a small ball, oblivious to everything around her. Lu Yu tugged the blanket back into place over both of them before lying back down, staring blankly up at the pale gray morning sky as he replayed the events of the previous night in his mind. A quiet, please smile tugged at the corners of his mouth. Su Nian shifted slightly beside them, and Lu Yu instantly smoothed his expression and closed his eyes again. The girl mumbled in her sleep and buried her face deeper into her mother's chest before settling back into slumber. Su Wantong's eyes fluttered open a crack before slipping closed once more. It had been far too long since she had felt such a profound sense of calm, and she had no desire to rouse herself just yet. Cool, briny morning breeze drifted over the water, carrying the sharp, clean salt scent of the open sea. A brand new day had begun. Pale daylight seeped through the overcast gray clouds when Su Nian woke first, jolted awake by the cold. The blanket had come loose at her feet, frigid air creeping upward along her calves and making her shudder. She tried to pull her legs inward, only to realize her limbs were draped over her mother's calves, with her mother's back pressed firmly against another person's body. Memories of the previous night flooded back all at once, stripping off soaked clothing, huddling under the shared blanket, sleeping pressed together for warmth. Her cheeks flushed bright red, and she froze rigid beneath the blanket, afraid to make a single sound. Her bare skin brushed against the rough fabric of the blanket, her torso fully exposed with no clothing covering her front or back. She bit her lip and squeezed her eyes shut tight, straining to listen to the quiet sounds beside her. Lu Yu's breathing was slow and steady, seemingly still asleep. Her mother's breathing was uneven and erratic, as if trapped in a vivid dream. Su Nian cautiously opened her eyes and tilted her head to look. Su Wantong's eyes remained shut, her bare shoulders dotted with faint red marks hidden partially by the blanket. She frowned, trying to make out what those marks were, obscured by the fabric covering most of her mother's skin. Before she could puzzle it out, panic washed over her. Their soaked clothes were piled haphazardly on the far end of the raft. Now that daylight had arrived, how were they supposed to get dressed without being seen by Lu Yu? Her ears burned hot enough to throb, her heartbeat hammering wildly against her ribs. She could not let Lu Yu see her while she changed clothes, even if he had already caught glimpses the night before. She needed him to shut his eyes or turn his back completely. Her thoughts devolved into a messy jumble of anxiety and embarrassment. Lu Yu had actually woken the second Su Nian stirred in her sleep. He had remained perfectly still, quietly observing the girl's flustered reaction with quiet amusement. Vivid recollections of Su Wantong's quiet reactions the night before lingered fresh in his mind, and his arm tightened imperceptibly around her waist beneath the blanket. Su Wantong's body trembled faintly against his touch. She had woken earlier than her daughter, yet kept her eyes closed, savoring the warm breath falling against the nape of her neck, terrified the moment would vanish if she moved an inch. She never expected to grow so attached to the warmth Lu Yu gave her after their vulnerable night together. Su Nian cleared her throat softly. Lu Yu. Lu Yu did not move. Sun Yan raised her voice a little louder. Lu Yu, are you awake? I'm awake. Lu Yu's reply was lazy, his voice thick with lingering drowsiness. Turn around right now. Sun Yan's lips pressed together nervously. Why? I need to get dressed. Don't look back at all. Lu Yu held his gaze on the girl's flushed face for a few amused seconds before slowly twisting his body to face the open ocean. I'm turned away. Sun Yan quickly threw back the blanket and scrambled to grab the damp pile of clothes stacked on the raft's edge, before crouching down to relieve herself, her face blazing red with embarrassment. She had been holding it in the entire night. Lu Yu smiled faintly upon hearing the soft sounds, knowing exactly what she was doing. He and Su Wantong had taken care of their own needs quietly overnight, while Sun Yan slept soundly through it all. Once finished, Sun Yan hurried to pull on her damp, clammy shirt, gasping at the cold fabric against her skin as she rushed to don her trousers, coat, and socks one after another. She let out a relieved sigh once fully clothed and glanced toward Lu Yu, whose back remained faithfully turned away. She noticed her mother was still curled up under the blanket and hesitated to tell her to get dressed, unsure how to broach the awkward subject. Shift further to that side of the raft, she said stiffly. Lu Yu had yet to move when the system notification suddenly echoed aloud for all three people to hear. Detected complete absorption of iron-scaled fish nutrients within host and crew members. Minor physical evolution has taken effect. Host strength stat. 20/20ths Su Wantong strength stat. 15/15ths Sun Yan strength stat. 6/12ths. Updating full detailed character data. Crew members have been granted permission to access their personal status panels. All three froze in surprise at the system's audible alert. Sun Yan stared down at her hands. Her fingers looked identical as always, yet a subtle shift hummed beneath her skin, as if a faint internal barrier had broken open and fresh strength surged forth from deep within her bones. She curled her fist tightly, noticing the faint indentations left on her palm had faded significantly. Beneath the blanket, Su Wantong felt the change as well. The heavy, bone-deep exhaustion weighing on her body had vanished entirely, replaced by a light, clear sensation as blood flowed smoothly through her veins. She sat upright, clutching the blanket tightly over her chest as she studied her arms, her skin glowing with a healthier radiance than the night prior. She now understood why she had felt so energized through their vulnerable night together. The fish had replenished their bodily energy reserves. She rose to her feet and began pulling her own clothes on. Lu Yu opened his system panel, surprised to learn his crew could view basic personal statistics tied to his bound system. He alone retained full host privileges over the interface. Character profile. Host. Lu Yu, strength. 20/20, status. Fully rested vigorous, unique abilities. None unlocked consuming marine life, carries a random chance of granting special abilities. Registered crew. Name. Su Wantong, strength. 15/15ths, status. Fully rested vigorous, unique abilities. None unlocked. Name. Sun Yan, strength. 12/12ths, status. Fully rested vigorous, unique abilities. None unlocked. Lu Yu stared at the stats for a moment, a grin spreading wider across his face. A single iron-scaled fish had boosted the physical capabilities of every person on the raft. A few more days of fishing would eliminate any need for physical training entirely. Setting the panel aside, his gaze drifted back towards Su Wantong as she wrapped the blanket around herself to stand. Pale morning light highlighted the faint marks he had left on her exposed shoulders the night before. Sun Yan paid no mind to the faint blemishes, too busy rushing her mother to get dressed quickly. Before Lu Yu took advantage of the awkward situation again, Su Wantong bit her lower lip and shot Lu Yu a fleeting glance. Less than half a second long yet laden with quiet, unspoken understanding only the two of them shared from the night they had weathered together. He smiled and turned around obediently to get dressed. Don't worry, I won't peek. I'll check later tonight, and we'll sort out all the lingering troubles between us then. Su Wantong pulled her clothes on in a rush. Her shirt was still damp, clinging uncomfortably to her skin, yet she had no other choice. Her fingers paused when she fastened the topmost button. She glanced down at the skin just below her collarbone, marked with fresh, deep bruises left from last night's strenuous struggle for survival. Drawing a deep breath, she tugged her collar higher to cover the blemishes. I'm dressed. You can turn back now. When Lu Yu spun around, Sun Yan had already moved to the far end of the raft, sitting with her knees drawn to her chest. She deliberately kept a safe distance from him, avoiding his gaze entirely. Su Wantong sat in the middle with a calm expression, though the tips of her ears stayed flushed red. A heavy silence hung over the three of them. The sea was calm with gentle winds and mild waves. The pale gray sky looked identical to it had the previous day. Their rickety wooden raft remained unchanged, loose iron nails, fraying hemp ropes that creaked with every small shift. Yet something fundamental had shifted among the three survivors. Sun Yin felt shut out entirely. She looked from Lu Yu to her mother. Though they sat side by side, an invisible wall separated them. She could not name what lay between the two adults, but her instincts screamed that something had happened while she'd fallen asleep the night before. Lu Yu, she suddenly spoke up. Did anything happen last night? Anything happen? A faint teasing glint flickered across Lu Yu's face. Su Wantong shot him a sharp warning stare, silently threatening unpleasant consequences if he spoke carelessly. Sun Yin stared at him for 2 seconds before swallowing her unfinished question. She could never bring herself to voice it. How could she outright ask if he had taken advantage of her mother? Such words would only put her in an awkward, disrespectful position. Besides, judging by Lu Yu's usual demeanor, she was certain some intimate interaction had occurred overnight. Never mind. She twisted her head away. Su Wantong let out a quiet breath of relief. She reached out to brush a strand of sticky hair off her daughter's face. Her gesture natural, as if nothing out of the ordinary had taken place. Quit overthinking things. We were all worn out and slept soundly through the night. Hidden behind her back, however, her other hand clenched tightly onto the edge of their thin blanket. She must keep last night's events hidden from her daughter forever. Lu Yu stretched his limbs, his joints cracking audibly. His physical condition had improved drastically overnight. His dark eye circles had faded, his chapped lips were moisturized, and he looked thoroughly refreshed and revitalized. He stood barefoot on the wooden planks and scanned the endless ocean in every direction. The gunmetal gray sea stretched seamlessly to the horizon. No ships, no shoreline, nothing but wind and endless water. Let's keep earning system currency today, otherwise we'll be stuck adrift on this broken raft for the rest of our lives. He picked up his bamboo fishing pole, weighed it in his hand, and twirled it once. He crouched down, his gaze drifting casually over Su Wantong's face. Su Wantong felt his stare, and her ears burned hot once more. She subtly pulled the blanket toward her legs to cover the lingering marks on her skin. Sun Yin noticed none of this. She hung her head, tangled in her own anxious thoughts. What will we do tonight? Do we really have to squeeze together to sleep again? The more she pondered the situation, the more irritable and unsettled she grew. She stole a quick glance at Lu Yu before dropping her gaze again. She could not pinpoint the source of her frustration, whether it stemmed purely from Lu Yu's presence or something deeper she could not grasp. Young as she was, she forced all vague, confusing feelings down before they could fully form in her mind. Lu Yu cast his fishing hook into the seawater. Morning light spilled across the muted sky. It was brightened further by the faint blush lingering on Su Wantong's cheeks. He bit the fishing line to hurl the hook out over the waves. Only one thought crossed his mind. Last night's mutual support and comfort had been completely worthwhile. A small cost bought them a safe night of rest and forged a closer bond with Su Wantong. It was an undeniable bargain. But what about tonight? He moistened his lips with his tongue and let his gaze drift back toward the woman beside him. Su Wantong happened to lift her head, and their eyes locked midair. She immediately looked away, swallowing hard to calm her racing heartbeat. Sun Yin remained oblivious to their silent exchange, staring blankly at the sea surface. She listened to the wind crying over the waves and distant seabird cries. She frowned in confusion. How could birds survive out in the open ocean with no land nearby? A thin dark silhouette skimmed low across the water in the distance. Lu Yu narrowed his eyes to observe it, a slow smirk tugging at the corners of his mouth. He was unsure whether this strange ocean realm belonged to his original world. Yet every new discovery made their survival journey far more thrilling. He refocused his attention on his fishing float, which bobbed slightly beneath the water's surface. The float suddenly sank completely underwater. Lu Yu snapped his wrist upward, yanking the bamboo pole high. The fishing line went taut, and a creature struggled violently beneath the waves. Thanks to his recently boosted physical strength, the pole felt far weaker than the iron-scaled fish he had caught the previous day. He needed no help from Sun Yin this time, hauling his catch out of the water with 2 effortless tugs. A small, palm-sized unknown fish with dull gray scales flopped onto the raft. It thrashed briefly in the sunlight before falling still. A system notification popped up in front of his eyes, scanning caught target data. Target, juvenile grouper grade 0.2. Length, 0.2 meters. Recyclable components. Entire carcass usable as fishing bait. Value, 1 system coin. No special abilities detected. Remaining struggle value, 1/5. Recommendation, consume directly or repurpose as bait. Just 1 coin. Lu Yu spat lightly, removing the fish from the hook. He tossed it beside the pile of leftover fish bones from their previous meal. Every little bit adds up. System, process the recycling. Confirmed recycling. Juvenile Grouper Grade 0.2. 1 system coin credited to account. Transaction complete. Current total system coins, 1. Su Nian leaned forward to glance at the fish, then retreated back to her original spot. Su Wantong sat on the opposite side, spreading her damp outer coat across her knees to air dry. Her gaze wandered over toward Lu Yu repeatedly. Lu Yu re-baited his hook and cast the line back into the ocean. Less than 3 minutes passed before the float jerked violently once again. The pole was far heavier than the juvenile grouper had been, bending the tip of the pole sharply downward. He braced himself to pull back when a shrill cry echoed from above their heads. Su Nian was the first to look upward. A dark shape dove straight down from the pale gray heavens. Its wingspan stretched nearly 2 meters wide, the edges of its feathers shimmering with a cold metallic sheen. The creature moved at terrifying speed, cutting through the air like a heavy boulder plummeting from a great height. Above us, her warning died unfinished as the predator swooped directly over Lu Yu's head. A thick, foul fishy stench washed over the raft. The gust of wind generated by its beating wings scattered the pile of fish bones across the wooden planks. Lu Yu dodged sideways on instinct, feeling a blade-sharp appendage graze his shoulder. A long tear split open his outer jacket, the fabric flaring apart to expose the skin underneath, barely missing breaking his flesh. He lifted his eyes to get a clear view of the attacker. It resembled a seagull, yet nothing like any ordinary seabird. Its gunmetal gray beak curved like a short forged dagger with a razor-sharp metallic edge. Its feathers were replaced by tough scale like carapace plates, scraping against one another with a gritty rustle every time it spread its wings. Its talons were longer than steel daggers, thick-jointed with sharply hooked claws. The system alert sounded immediately, scanning hostile target data. Target: Iron Beak Sea Eagle Grade 1, edible flesh. Wingspan: 2.3 meters. Recyclable components: beak, talons, wing bones. Value: 30 system coins. No inherent special abilities. Remaining struggle value: 20 to 35 matches host's current strength stat. Warning: this predator possesses hardened, razor-sharp beak and talons and has initiated active combat mode. Su Nian let out a scream, curling into herself at the far edge of the raft in terror. She had never seen such a monstrous bird, paralyzed with fright on the spot. Su Wantong shot to her feet instantly, stepping in front of Su Nian to shield her daughter. Armed with no weapons whatsoever, she could only stare rigidly at the sea eagle hovering overhead, circling to launch a second diving assault. Lu Yu stayed crouched in place, gazing up at the fluttering iron-gray wings, a wild grin spreading across his face. He licked his lips, a primal hunter's excitement glinting in his eyes, a sight that sent a jolt of tension through Su Wantong's chest. How could he look this exhilarated facing such danger? System prompt: the target will be subdued once its struggle value drops to 0. Pretty thoughtful of the system to remind me constantly. He slowly straightened up, setting the bamboo pole aside. He grabbed the tattered fishing net lying on the raft floor. The rough net had fist-sized mesh holes weighted with lead chunks along its perimeter. Designed originally for fishing deep-sea catches, Lu Yu gripped both ends tightly, holding it open like a trap waiting to close around the diving bird. The iron beak sea eagle dove for the second time. Su Wantong's pupils constricted with alarm. This strike aimed straight for Lu Yu's forehead, the pointed tip of its metal-hard beak locked onto his face. It moved faster than its first attack, its piercing shriek slicing through the air like a shrill whistle. Lu Yu stood completely still, waiting for the perfect moment. The eagle's shadow expanded rapidly across the raft. The wind from its beating wings ruffled his hair. He could even make out the soft white down clustered at its throat as it drew near. He struck then. He hurled the net upward in one powerful motion, the fabric billowing into a solid wall that enveloped the bird mid-dive. The sea eagle slammed headfirst into the mesh, its wings and talons tangling tightly within the coarse hemp ropes. It thrashed violently, tearing several strands of the net, yet the fabric proved far tougher than the beast had anticipated. It coiled tighter with every frantic movement. The tangled mass of bird and net crashed heavily onto the raft, sending the entire wooden structure rocking violently. Damn it! Lu Yu lunged forward, pinning one of the eagle's wings beneath his knee. He drew the dagger, sheathed at his waist. The bird wrenched its beak free from a gap in the mesh the second he pulled the blade free. It stabbed viciously toward his face. He tilted his head to evade the blow, only for the sharp beak to slice a gash across his chin, burning sharply with pain. Trying to injure me? He let out a low laugh, twisting the dagger around to strike the eagle's skull with the flat of the blade. Clang! A crisp metallic ring echoed out. The eagle's cranium was shockingly hard, comparable to solid iron plating. The creature thrashed even more ferociously after the blow. One of its claws ripped open a larger tear in the net. Three hooked talons swiped toward Lu Yu's thigh. Sun Yin trembled against the raft's edge, while Su Wantong snatched up a spare fishing rod and rushed forward. She struck the eagle's neck with all her strength. Her blow lacked sufficient force to injure the beast, barely phasing it at all. The eagle did not make the slightest sound of pain, though its head jolted sideways just enough to miss striking Lu Yu. Seizing this narrow opening, Lu Yu flipped the dagger around and drove the sharp tip cleanly into the soft flesh at the base of the eagle's neck. It slipped past its armored feathers and tough hide. Warm blood spurted outward, splattering across his cheeks and jaw. The eagle's talons seized up in a final spasm before going limp. Its wings collapsed motionless against the raft floor, wrapped securely inside the fishing net. Struggle value adjusted to 0/35. Target successfully captured. Lu Yu released his grip on the dagger, bracing his knees to catch his breath. The fresh cut on his chin oozed blood, mixing with the eagle's blood streaked across his skin. He wiped the mess away roughly with his sleeve and threw back his head with a loud laugh. Su Wantong dropped the fishing rod, her palms slick with cold sweat and her fingers trembling nonstop. Watching Lu Yu laugh openly with blood covering his face, the tight tension coiled in her chest finally unwound. It was replaced by a rush of tender, complicated emotion. She parted her lips to ask if he was hurt, yet the words that escaped her mouth were, "You're reckless." Lu Yu turned his head to face her. The gash on his chin was shallow but steadily weeping beads of blood. His whole face was stained red with both the eagle's blood and his own. Still, his eyes burned with fierce, bright vitality, raw triumph radiating from every inch of his body. To put it plainly, I hold all the advantages here. He glanced down at the motionless sea eagle bundled within the net. Reckless? This is worth 30 system coins. I can exchange its beak, talons, and wing bones for currency. Plus we get fresh meat to eat. Sun Yin slowly crawled away from the raft's edge. Her legs still shook violently, her face as pale as paper. She stared at Lu Yu's blood-streaked face for 2 heartbeats, her lips parting without a single word coming out. Deep down, she had to admit he looked impressive in that moment. Grinning wildly with blood smeared across his features as he subdued the giant bird struck an undeniably gallant figure. But memories of his earlier bold, suggestive glances toward her mother curdled her admiration into disgust. It stopped her from voicing any positive thoughts. She hated how helpless and terrified she had been during the attack. Clenching her fists tightly, she resolved to grow stronger, learn to defend her mother, and stand up for herself against any threats. She prayed Lu Yu had not witnessed her moment of cowardice. Su Wantong knelt down beside him at once. "Stay still, I'll stop the bleeding." With no proper first aid supplies available, she pressed her palm gently against the open wound. It was a makeshift attempt to stem the blood flow. Lu Yu tilted his chin upward passively, letting her tend to his injury freely. The wound was mild at worst, yet he savored the gentle care coming from Su Wantong's hands. His gaze drifted down to her lowered eyelashes and the faint flush dusting the tips of her ears, pulling another faint smile onto his face. Su Wantong felt his gaze lingering on her, her hand faltering for a split second, though she kept her head bowed. Sun Yin paid no notice to their quiet interaction, staring blankly at the eagle's corpse. She muttered quietly to herself, "This massive beast nearly mauled us to death just now. Nearly mauled me. Look how frozen with fear you were back there," Lu Yu teased. Sun Yin had no retort to fire back. His words were nothing but the unvarnished truth. She sighed in quiet defeat. There was no hiding her moment of panic from him. Lu Yu stood and walked over to the eagle's body, kneeling to begin harvesting its valuable parts. System, recycle the beak, talons, and wing bones. Confirmed recycling. Grade 1 iron beak, sea eagle components. 30 system coins deposited into account. Updated total system coins, 31. Need another 69 coins to hit my goal. System, what exactly are these special abilities listed in creature profiles? Curiosity spurred him to ask after noticing the line item on the previous scan report. Creature special abilities encompass offensive skills, defensive buffs, and supportive traits. They carry severe hazard ratings. There is a random chance to obtain usable skill fragments upon successfully hunting such creatures. Now that's useful, actual skill drops from kills. Lu Yu grew even more intrigued by the potential of hunting mutated sea creatures. even though he had yet to encounter a specimen bearing usable special abilities. He rinsed his dagger clean with seawater and wiped the blade dry on the fabric of his trousers. Picking his bamboo fishing pole back up, he cast his hook into the ocean again as if the brutal battle with the sea eagle had never occurred. Su Wantong watched his unshaken composure, tightening her grip around the blood-stained fishing rod in her hands. She had once written Lu Yu off as nothing more than an overly forward, frivolous man. After the previous night's shared hardship and mutual support, she recognized him as a decisive, reliable man of action. Now, she began to truly believe he might be their best hope for surviving long-term out on the open ocean. She set the wooden rod down beside her feet and slowly relaxed her rigid grip. The self-reliant emotional barrier she had built up over time cracked open by a small margin. On the other side of the raft, Sun Yin bit down hard on her lower lip. She watched Lu Yu's hunched back as he waited for a bite, along with the crusted scab forming over the gash on his chin. A chilling thought suddenly surfaced in her mind, frightening her deeply. If he was capable of slaying such a ferocious giant bird with his bare hands, would he turn that same lethal strength against her if she ever defied him? A cold shiver ran down her spine, and she forced the disturbing thought out of her mind. Even so, she could not resist stealing another quick glance at Lu Yu before hastily looking away. Lu Yu knelt at the raft's edge waiting for a fish to take the bait, the bamboo pole resting across his knees. The blood on his chin had congealed into a dark scab. Ocean wind swept his hair back from his forehead as he squinted out toward the distant horizon. The fishing float abruptly vanished beneath the waves entirely. The force of the pole was unlike anything he had felt so far. The bamboo pole bent into a tight arch in an instant, yanking Lu Yu forward a step with his feet scraping against the wooden planks. Bracing his body firmly around the pole, he gritted his teeth and cursed under his breath. Damn it, we've got something huge down there. Su Wantong frowned sharply upon hearing his exclamation, a flicker of nervous unease stirring within her. Lu Yu reeled the fishing line in with all his strength. The creature below the water grew enraged from being tugged, surging powerfully in the opposite direction. The entire raft spun halfway around its axis, the embedded iron nails screeching against the wood grain. Su Wantong and Sun Yin both grabbed tightly onto the hemp safety ropes lining the raft's rim to avoid being thrown overboard. My raw strength isn't enough to pull this in alone. Lu Yu barked through clenched teeth. Su Wantong, grab my waist from behind. Sun Yin, lock your arms around my calves. Hurry. Su Wantong hurried to his rear and wrapped both arms firmly around his waist, leaning backward to use her body weight for extra pulling force. Her chest pressed against his back through 2 layers of damp fabric, yet neither of them paid any mind to the physical contact amid the life or death struggle. Sun Yin rushed over to cling tightly to his lower legs. The 3 of them huddled together as a single anchored weight. The seawater roiled violently below the raft. A massive shape surged upward from the depths, stirring up far greater turbulence than the iron-scaled fish had caused. Churning waves crashed against the raft's edges, drenching all 3 survivors with salt spray. One of the wooden planks beneath Lu Yu's feet began to come loose entirely. A single iron nail popped free from its hole and plopped into the ocean with a quiet splash. If this keeps up, this flimsy raft is going to fall apart piece by piece. He ground the words out between clenched jaws. Snapping the bamboo pole upward with every last ounce of muscle strength he possessed, the pole rebounded sharply after bending to its breaking point. Hauling the submerged beast upward by roughly 2 meters, a massive dark silhouette emerged from the murky seawater. It was a dark, gray aquatic predator with smooth skin, its body more than 3 times thicker than the iron-scaled fish they had caught earlier. The system notification chimed to deliver its analysis, scanning caught target data. Target: black spine shark grade 1, edible flesh. Length: 3 meters. Recyclable components: teeth, spinal bones, hide, fins, tendons. Value: 50 system coins. No special abilities detected. Remaining struggle value: 3050 exceeds host's maximum strength capacity. Critical warning: forcing the capture may result in the target breaking free and launching a retaliatory assault. Lu Yu glanced at the struggle value reading and set his jaw firmly. We're pulling it up no matter what. The combined weight and strength of the 3 of us has to be enough. He channeled every bit of power into his core and leg muscles, growling out his command in a strained voice. Su Wantong, Sun Yin, pull with everything you've got on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. All 3 strained their bodies backward in unison, heaving the bamboo pole upward in a violent surge of force. The 3-meter-long black spine shark was torn free from the waves and hurled onto the raft's wooden surface. It thrashed its thick tail once mid-air before crashing heavily onto the planks. The small raft tilted sharply 30 degrees to the left under the sheer weight of the shark. Two more iron nails tore loose from the wood, prying a narrow crack open between two planks where seawater immediately seeped upward onto the raft floor. We got it onto the raft. Lu Yu leaned his weight hard in the opposite direction to stabilize the tilting raft, driving his knee down hard against the shark's torso to pin the creature in place. The black-spined shark whipped its powerful tail relentlessly, each brutal impact splitting new cracks across the wooden planks. Updated struggle value, 20/50ths. With no time to retrieve his dagger, Lu Yu slammed his fist hard against the shark's skull. On his first blow, the shark's tail whipped into his calf, sending a sharp jolt of pain up his leg that made him hiss aloud. Updated struggle value, 18/50ths. His second fist landed solidly on the top of the shark's head, dulling the intensity of its thrashing movements noticeably. Struggle value, 12/50ths. He threw punch after punch like driving stakes into the creature, landing the third, fourth, and fifth blows nonstop, until the black ridged shark's tail finally went limp. He lifted his knee off the beast and slumped heavily onto the raft, his body covered in a mixture of seawater, blood, and sweat. A bruise bloomed along the side of his calf from the lash of the shark's tail, and raw scrapes crisscrossed his hands. Struggle value, 0/50. Capture successful. Host strength stat, 0/20ths. Critical exhaustion. Energy replenishment, strongly recommended. Su Wantong loosened her arms wrapped around his torso and collapsed onto the wooden planks, gasping heavily with her chest heaving violently. She stared at the meter-and-a-half long dark gray shark carcass sprawled in the center of the raft, then glanced at Lu Yu's bruised calf and bloodied hands. Her lips trembled slightly before she forced her gaze away. Su Nian released the fishing line and dropped onto the opposite side of the raft. She watched blood drip steadily from Lu Yu's knuckles, saw the shark's bulk bow the raft's surface downward, and spotted two dislodged nails sinking slowly beneath the waves. Her heart hammered so hard it felt ready to burst from her ribs, yet her eyes stayed fixed on his wounded hands. Fresh blood seeped through the split, torn flesh, but he did not utter a single groan of pain. For the first time, she realized there was far more to this man than just his brash, unrefined demeanor. Lu Yu shook the blood from his hands and frowned sharply. This raft won't hold up to much more punishment. He tore two loose hemp ropes from the raft's edge, retrieved the two floating nails bobbing on the water's surface, then knelt to refasten the warped wooden planks back into place. Su Wantong crawled over to help him pull the ropes taut. After a moment's hesitation, Su Nian moved to press down on the plank edges to hold them steady. The three knelt side by side on the raft, working in silence to reinforce every loose section of the structure. The sea calmed for the time being. Lu Yu straightened up, washing the blood and salt water from his palms, and stared toward the pale gray horizon in the distance, the direction the sea eagle had flown in from. He pushed the thought aside for the moment, looking down at the black ridged shark, then patted the dagger sheathed at his waist. Its blade was badly warped. It had remained sharp enough to slit the sea eagle's neck earlier, but repeated blunt blows against the shark's skull had bent the cutting edge badly, rendering it too dull to even slice through fish skin. He knelt down to test the blade against the shark's hide. The metal skidded harmlessly across the tough scales, leaving nothing but a faint white mark. "You've got to be kidding me, this skin is rock hard." He tossed the dagger onto the wood. The blade's ruined. Su Wantong leaned in to inspect the weapon, her brows knitting together. How are we supposed to butcher such a large fish without a working blade? Lu Yu thought for a second and called out toward thin air. "System, what do I do with a broken dagger?" Folding pocket knife available in level 1 system shop for 15 system coins. Alternative option, direct full salvage of the black ridged shark. Current raft lacks proper butchering facilities. Confirm full salvage? Lu Yu froze, then let out an exasperated huff. "You could have told me salvage was an option sooner. I wasted all that time stabbing the thing for nothing." System prompts activate only upon user inquiry. "Fine, you make the rules." Drawing in a deep breath, he spoke firmly to the massive shark corpse. "Salvage the whole carcass." Salvage confirmed. Level 1 black ridge shark whole specimen. Value, 50 system coins added to balance. Edible meat portions have been stored within system storage for retrieval at any time. Current system coin balance, 81. A faint grin tugged at the corners of Lu Yu's mouth as he watched the updated number pop up. 81 coins. He had possessed 0 just the previous day, and now he was only 19 coins short of upgrading this ramshackle raft. Before closing the status panel, a detail from the salvage notification caught his eye. What exactly is system storage? Level 1 Ocean Survival System grants access to Tier 1 storage. Current storage capacity holds goods with a total salvage value capped at 100 system coins valued by salvage price, not physical volume. Items may be stored or withdrawn freely. Storage space? Luyu raised an eyebrow. A place to keep our supplies? Affirmative. Stored items occupy no physical space on the raft and add 0 weight to the vessel. Glancing at the dead iron-beaked sea eagle lying at his feet, Luyu ordered, "Store the iron-beaked sea eagle." The bird's body vanished into thin air the instant he finished speaking. "Now that's incredibly useful," he muttered sincerely. Su Wantong and Su Nian watched the creature disappear without the overwhelming shock they had felt the night before. Su Nian even knelt down to run her palm over the wooden planks to confirm the corpse was truly gone before standing back up. "This system really is quite convenient," she murmured quietly. "It's convenient, but nothing here comes free of cost." Luyu dismissed the system interface and turned to face the mother and daughter pair. "We need 100 coins total for the raft upgrade, and we're 19 short. We have to earn the rest before nightfall." Su Wantong nodded her head, gaze sweeping over the clutter. "Should we resume fishing then?" "Absolutely, but we're establishing new ground rules from now on." Luyu sat cross-legged on the planks, tore off a chunk of raw flesh from the iron-scaled fish, and chewed slowly as he laid out his terms. "The system gave each of you your own fishing rods, correct?" Both Su Wantong and Su Nian glanced down at their equipment in unison. Unlike the weathered bamboo pole Luyu used, their rods were newer with neatly wound fishing line. Rewards distributed by the system to registered crew members. Su Nian picked up one rod and hefted it in her hand. "It handles pretty well, actually." "Good to hear." Luyu swallowed the mouthful of raw fish. "Let me make this clear. On this vessel, work earns sustenance. No labor means no food rations whatsoever. Every catch you bring in converts into system coins, which you can exchange for cooked meals, clean clothing, and any other supplies you need. That said, I will deduct 20% of all coins you earn. For example, if your catch totals 20 coins, 4 coins go to me, leaving you with 16 for your own use." Su Nian shot him an indignant glare. "You're nothing short of a profiteering capitalist." "Suppose I am? What do you expect me to gain from all this hard labor otherwise?" Luyu flashed a cheeky grin, turning towards Su Wantong. "Would you back me up on this, ma'am?" Su Wantong fell silent for a few beats. She picked up the second fishing rod, pinched the fishing line between her fingers, then met Luyu's gaze with a solemn nod. "The arrangement is reasonable. Everyone must contribute their share. We cannot rely solely on your efforts to survive long-term. One more rule. Raft upgrades take top priority. No personal supply purchases will be approved until we hit the 100-coin threshold." The raft was barely holding together as it stood, and structural failure would put all 3 of their lives in immediate danger. Su Nian understood the urgency behind the requirement and dropped her argument with a sour expression. "Fine, I'll fish." She threaded a strip of grouper meat onto her hook and cast her line out toward the open water. Her casting technique was clumsy and full of misapplied force. The line veered sharply sideways, nearly tangling against Su Wantong's body. Su Wantong let out a soft laugh and shifted her own rod further away before baiting her hook as well. A flush of embarrassment crept over Su Nian's face, though she said nothing. She reeled her line back in and cast once more, her second attempt far more controlled. Su Wantong knelt to cast her own line, her movements far more polished with a clean splash. Luyu observed their actions without comment, mentally acknowledging that the woman possessed solid practical skills he had not noticed previously. The 3 each took up a separate section of the raft, Su Nian on the east side, Su Wantong on the west, and Luyu in the center. Still chewing on his raw fish ration. He was utterly drained. His strength stat sitting at 0 had left his body completely depleted, forcing him to grip his knees just to stand upright. For the moment, all he needed to do was replenish his energy and oversee their fishing efforts. A peaceful hush settled over the sea, gentle small waves rocking the floats gently atop the dull gray seawater. Su Nian's float twitched first. Her fingers tightened around the rod shaft nervously, her eyes locked on the water. When the float sank fully beneath the surface, she hauled upward with all her strength. A 20-centimeter silvery fish flew onto the raft, flopping weakly for a moment before falling still. Su Wantong leaned over to examine the catch, only to watch her own float dip downward as well. She pulled back on her rod and reeled in a fish of nearly identical size. 2 system notifications popped up simultaneously. Target, Silverline fish tier 0.3 length, 0.22 meters value. 3 system coins suggested use, direct consumption or repurposing as bait. Target, Silverline fish tier 0.3 length, 0.20 meters value. 3 system coins, 6 coins total right there. Lu Yu smiled faintly after swallowing his food. Not bad for your first tries. Sun Yin unhooked the fish and frowned down at its small frame. Only 3 coins apiece. Your Black Ridge shark was worth 50 and the Sea Eagle 30. Why are my catches valued so low? Probably because your fishing skill leaves much to be desired. Lu Yu pushed himself to his feet and lifted the small silver fish to weigh it casually. This tiny thing wouldn't even fill our bellies if dried for bait. Naturally, it won't fetch much value. You're the incompetent one, she mumbled under her breath, but kept re-baiting and recasting her line without pause. This time she waited patiently for a firm tug before reeling in, successfully landing another silverline fish. Su Wantong also pulled in a steady stream of catches, small gray sea bass, juvenile grouper, and assorted minor reef fish. New system alerts appeared with every haul. Target, gray base tier 0.4. Value, for system coins target, juvenile grouper tier 0.3. Value, 3 system coins target, silverline fish tier 0.3. Value, 3 system coins. Lu Yu's coin tally climbed incrementally. 81, 85, 89, 92. Sun Yin had started fishing with fierce determination, but fatigue slowly set in. Her casting motions grew sloppy from aching muscles. Still, she kept repeating a quiet mantra of one more catch to hit the upgrade mark and refused to pause for rest. Su Wantong endured equal strain, sweat dripping down her temples and red indentations marking her fingers from the taut fishing line. She only shook her hands out briefly to soothe the soreness before continuing to fish. Seated in the middle of the raft, Lu Yu's strength stat had climbed back up to 8 points. He glanced at Sun Yin's tense profile as she bit her lip to focus on casting, then at Su Wantong's sweat-soaked hair plastered to her forehead as she unhooked her latest catch. A slow, genuine smile formed on his face. Mother and daughter differed greatly, one sharp-tongued and fiery, the other quiet and steady. But both worked diligently when push came to shove. He leaned back against his folded arms to stare up at the sky. Life adrift on the open ocean was far more bearable than he had initially imagined. We can salvage this one, Su Wantong said, holding up her newly caught gray base toward Lu Yu. Salvage confirmed. Gray base tier 0.4. Value, for system coins added to balance. Current system coin balance, 97. 97. Sun Yin's spirits lifted instantly. Just one more fish will get us the upgrade. Hurry and cast. Her excitement made her misjudge her casting force, tangling the fishing line tight around the tip of her rod. She was desperate for the raft upgrade, eager to leave the cramped shared open raft sleeping arrangement behind them all. After fumbling uselessly with the knotted line for some time, she stamped her foot in frustration. Lu Yu, come untangle this for me. How are you addressing me? Lu Yu shot her a lazy sideways glance. Lu Yu, could you please help me fix this fishing line? Your tone is still lacking proper courtesy. Sun Yin's face burned bright red with suppressed irritation, forcing the words out through gritted teeth. Lu Yu, would you kindly untangle my fishing line? That's much more appropriate. Lu Yu stood lazily and walked over, unraveling the tangled cord in 3 quick movements. His fingertips brushed lightly against the back of Sun Yin's hand, making her jerk her arm away as if burned. She glared sharply at him. Keep your hands to yourself. I barely touched your hand. Lu Yu smirked. Your palms are thin and bony. There's nothing appealing about them anyway. You, forget it. I won't waste energy arguing with you. Sun Yin straightened out her line and cast her bait back into the ocean. She fixed her gaze intently on the float, whispering quietly to herself. Bring me a high-value catch, just one valuable fish. Lu Yu stood beside her and let out a quiet scoff. You carry a cold, unapproachable expression nearly every single day, yet here you are talking to yourself out loud. Sun Yin rolled her eyes. This is all your fault. Lu Yu tilted his head in genuine confusion. What does this have to do with me at all? Sun Yin stole a quick glance toward her mother. It's because you keep hovering around her all the time. The accusation sat heavy on her tongue, and she could not bring herself to voice it fully. At that exact moment, the float dipped sharply under the waves. Sun Yin hauled back hard on the rod. Water splashed upward as a palm-sized fish was pulled onto the raft, its scales shimmering with a pale golden sheen under the daylight. The system alert popped up immediately. Target, squirrelfish tier 1 length. 0.12 meters salvageable material. Golden scales value. 15 system coins. Sun Yin blinked in surprise. 15 coins. Current system coin balance. 107. Lu Yu looked between the golden-scaled fish and Sun Yin before grinning widely. 107 coins. We've got enough for the raft upgrade. The tight tension draining from Su Nian's shoulders, she loosened her grip on the fishing rod. She stared down at the fish she had caught, then raised her eyes toward Lu Yu, her lips parting as if to speak before she swallowed her unspoken words back down. Su Wantong set her rod aside, pushing herself upright with her knees and rubbing her sore lower back with a long sigh of relief. Her gaze fell to the scabbed cut along Lu Yu's jaw as she spoke softly. We can upgrade the raft now. We can. Lu Yu nodded and pulled up his system interface, his focus landing on the upgrade option. Upgrade vessel. Cost 100 system coins. Current vessel. Dilapidated raft level 1. Small wooden boat level 2. Confirm upgrade. His virtual finger hovered over the confirm button for a brief second. He glanced back at the shoddy 3-meter raft, loose nails, frayed ropes, planks ready to split apart at any moment. Then he saw the clear relief on Su Wantong and Su Nian's faces, both desperate to escape the unsafe, unstable floating platform. He pressed the confirm prompt. Vessel upgrade confirmed. System coins deducted, 100. Remaining balance, 7. Vessel upgrade in progress. Estimated completion time, 10 minutes. The entire raft began to shudder beneath their feet. The wooden planks rearranged themselves seamlessly. Invisible forces pulled the frayed hemp ropes taut and braided them into sturdier bindings. Loose rusted nails were extracted, replaced by brand new fasteners materializing out of thin air to hammer firmly into the wood. 30 centimeters of new wooden board extended outward along the raft's perimeter, and the crude central bamboo pole morphed into a thicker, straighter built and fishing rod. Su Nian let out a small yelp and jumped backward when the wooden slab beneath her seat shifted of its own accord. Su Wantong grabbed her daughter's arm and pulled her back to the newly widened outer edge, both women watching the transformation unfold before their eyes. 10 minutes later, the vibrations faded completely. The upgraded boat remained modest in overall size, yet it was vastly superior to the jumble of rotting planks they had survived on previously. The deck was smooth and uniform, every plank tightly joined with fresh nails, no longer creaking underfoot with every movement. The bow curved gently upward, while the stern formed a neat square shape, reshaping the vessel into a proper miniature fishing boat rather than a haphazard floating wood pile. The most prominent new feature was a cabin constructed toward the rear of the boat, spanning roughly 1.8 meters long and 1.3 meters wide. The walls and arched roof were built from double-layered pale yellow wooden planks sealed together to block wind and moderate splashing seawater, with the curved roof designed to channel rainwater off the edges. An open entrance sat at the front of the cabin, covered by a movable wooden panel suspended from hemp rope, lowered to serve as a door, or hoisted upward onto overhead hooks to leave the entry open. Internal cabin height measured approximately 1.2 meters. Standing upright was impossible, yet there was ample room to sit or lie down comfortably. Spacious enough for 2 adults to lie side by side with space for a third person squeezed closely between them. The cabin floor sat 10 centimeters higher than the main deck, preventing seawater from soaking any bedding or supplies stored inside. The bare wooden floor was flat and dry, a luxury they had not possessed until now. 2 small wooden hooks lined each interior cabin wall for hanging clothing and lightweight gear. The open forward deck stretched 2.2 meters long, forming the main work area of the vessel. A reinforced fixed fishing pole rose from a thick wooden base bolted to the deck's center, twice as thick as their original bamboo rods with a smooth polished shaft. For small iron rings around the pole anchored fishing line spools and fishing nets securely in place. A low protective railing lined the entire deck perimeter, built from round logs thicker than an adult thumb and standing 20 centimeters tall. It prevented equipment from sliding overboard while offering a stable handhold when standing on deck. 2 manual wooden oars were also added to the boat's inventory. Beneath the deck, 2 sealed compartment spaces were built, one under the bow and another directly beneath the cabin, covered with wooden hatches for secure dry storage, both currently empty. Updated system text appeared on the status panel. Level 2 small wooden boat new additions. 1 cabin designed for 2 occupants, maximum capacity of 3 people. Navigation access. Deeper ocean waters recommended host strength stat greater than or equal to 100 before venturing inward. System upgrade. Level 2 ocean survival system unlocked alongside vessel upgrade. Level 2 system shop unlocked. Items priced between 100 to 200 system coins. Level 2 storage unlocked. Maximum storage value raised to 200 system coins worth of goods. Level 2 fishing rod unlocked. Capable of reeling in targets with struggle value less than or equal to 200 risk of rod damage for stronger prey. Upgrade requirement for level 3 vessel. 200 system coins. In short, their ramshackle raft had transformed into a functional boat with weatherproof sleeping quarters, finally granting them safe shelter through the cold ocean nights. The accompanying system upgrade opened up even more survival resources for their journey. Lu Yu stamped his foot firmly against the solid new deck, testing its stable, rigid structure with no unstable swaying whatsoever. He glanced at the sturdy new fishing pole, then toward the mother and daughter pair. We won't have to sleep exposed to the open ocean elements tonight. A faint flush rose on Sun Yan's cheeks. Do we still have to share the cabin space like we did last night? Where else would you sleep? The open deck is always an option if you prefer it. I'm not sleeping out there. Then stop complaining. You're absolutely infuriating. And what were you planning to say? Nian, that's enough. Su Wantong gently tugged at her daughter's wrist to calm her frustration. Sun Yan bit her lower lip and fell silent, her cheeks still flushed. As the two argued, the system notification chimed once again. Host, Lu Yu vessel, Tier 2 small wooden boat strength stat, 25/. Physique undergoing enhancement system coins, 7x1 level up gift pack unopened. A level up gift pack. Lu Yu raised an eyebrow. What's this thing? On the floating system panel, the icon for the level up gift pack flickered faintly. Framed with pale golden trim, it looked far more elaborate than the starter pack. Sun Yan leaned forward for a better look, nearly slamming her forehead into Lu Yu's jaw. He pressed his palm against her forehead to push her back. Don't crowd me. He tapped the icon, and the panel unfurled with a soft rustle. Opening Tier 2 level up gift pack. Obtained items. ×2 freshwater crystals, each yields 10 liters of pure freshwater ×1 portable stove plus fuel canister supports cooking. Fuel lasts for 30 days ×1 iron pot, ×3 iron bowls, ×1 cutting knife, ×2 wooden spoons, ×4 chopsticks, ×1 seasoning packet blended salt, dried chili peppers and assorted spices ×1 first aid kit bandages, antiseptic liquid, hemostatic powder ×1 Tier 2 Yin Yang pill special item. View details for specifications. Lu Yu skimmed past the first 5 rewards, his gaze locking firmly onto the 6th entry. He clicked open its detailed description. Tier 2 Yin Yang pill consumable. Effect: when ingested jointly by a male and female practitioner during paired physical refinement, both parties' physiques receive drastic reinforcement. The buff persists throughout the refinement process, with permanent gains to strength values once the ritual concludes. Expected strength boost cap, over 100 points. Usage requirement: full consent from both participants. The refinement ritual cannot be interrupted mid-effect. Quantity: 1 pill split into yin and yang halves, 1/2 for each person. A subtle smirk tugged at the corner of Lu Yu's mouth. This system sure knows what we need, he mused to himself internally. Su Wantong had not seen the detailed pill description, her attention fixed entirely on the tangible supplies spread before them. Freshwater, a stove, an iron pot, seasonings. She unconsciously twisted the hem of her shirt, swallowing hard. From the previous day till now, she had only eaten raw fish, cold, rank, and unpleasant. Though the scaled iron fish tasted tolerable, 2 straight meals of raw flesh had left her stomach uneasy. She ached for a mouthful of warm cooked food. Sun Yan's focus drifted to the seasoning sachet. Chili peppers and spices? The system actually includes condiments. The system thinks of more things than you'd imagine. Lu Yu closed the pill description window and drew each physical reward out from his system inventory one by one. The 2 freshwater crystals were fist-sized, translucent pale blue chunks, icy cold to the touch. The stove was a palm-sized iron box fitted with a circular burner port and an attached compact fuel canister. The iron pot had a thick, solid base with a glossy dark surface, perfectly sized for simmering a pot of fish soup. When he peeled back a corner of the oil paper wrapping the seasoning packet, a rich, savory aroma wafted out at once. Sun Yan drew in a deep breath, her eyes lighting up instantly. Su Wantong said nothing, yet her stare toward the iron pot burned far more fervently than the way she'd watched Lu Yu the night before. Su, please dissolve some freshwater first. I'll get the stove lit. Lu Yu handed 1 crystal to Su Wantong. He set the portable stove down in the center of the deck, twisted open the fuel valve, and struck a flint. He himself craved a hot meal badly, yet his system coins were insufficient for purchases from the system shop. Fortunately, the system rewarded his level up with exactly what they lacked. A burst of blue-yellow flame flared to life with a soft whoosh. Sun Yan squatted beside the stove, holding her palms toward the fire to warm herself and sighing in relief. Su Wantong carried the iron pot over to rest atop the burner and poured in 1 liter of freshly produced fresh water. Lu Yu retrieved the stored scaled iron fish meat and black ridge shark flesh from his inventory, sliced the flesh into chunks, and dropped them into the pot, pinching a dash of salt and dried chili from the seasoning packet to season the broth. The gentle simmer of boiling water hung heavy in the air, capturing the full attention of all three people. White steam curled out from under the pot lid, carrying a fragrant blend of savory brine and fresh fish. Sun Yin's stomach rumbled loudly enough for everyone to hear, painting her cheeks crimson in embarrassment. Lu Yu let out a quiet laugh, and even Su Wantong cracked a faint smile. A dozen minutes later, Su Wantong lifted the lid, ladling the cooked fish and broth evenly into the 3 iron bowls. Lu Yu picked up his chopsticks and took a bite of the fish. Warm, savory, with a faint numbing heat from the chili. The tender fish flesh melted smoothly across his tongue, slowing his chewing pace. Damn, this is incredible. He closed his eyes briefly, swallowing the bite and taking a sip of broth. Warmth flooded his body from his esophagus down into his stomach, spreading outward to every limb and tendon. Sun Yin paid no mind to the scalding temperature, shoveling mouthfuls of food rapidly, hissing through her teeth from the heat, yet refusing to slow down. Seated beside her, Su Wantong ate with far more graceful manners, though her chopsticks never paused. Bathed in the dimming twilight, the three finished every last scrap of the hot meal huddled around the iron pot. Not a drop of broth remained in the pot. Sun Yin even dipped her finger to collect the final traces of soup and licked her fingertip clean. Lu Yu leaned back against the cabin planks, rubbing his full stomach. A warm current surged through his insides, flowing outward from his stomach to every extremity. A system prompt popped up simultaneously. Consumed cooked food, high-quality fish flesh. Rapid physique enhancement in progress. Strength value rising. Current value, 3545. The numbers climbed steadily before stabilizing at 60. Host strength stat, 60/60ths. Lu Yu clenched his fist, his knuckles cracking softly. He could feel taut, reinforced muscle strength surging within him, more than double his power from the previous day. Su Wantong and Sun Yin each received their own system alerts. Sun Yin stared down at her hands, flexing her fists to feel the tangible new strength stretching from her fingertips to her shoulders. 50 points for me, Sun Yin muttered. Lu Yu stood and stamped his foot against the newly laid wooden planks of the bow, his stance rock solid. I was only at 20 this morning, now 60. Catch a few more high-grade sea creatures, and hitting 100 is well within reach. He flexed his muscles. I could punch a black ridge shark to death with one blow right now. He gazed out toward the open sea, freezing the second his eyes swept across the horizon. The seascape had drastically changed. The pale gray sky was being swallowed from the ocean line by a thick mass of deep gray haze, creeping forward like a colossal, slow-moving bank of fog. Its shade was far darker than any fog he had ever witnessed, verging on pitch black. Churning along its edges, the haze exuded an oppressive, heavy aura, drifting steadily in their direction. What on earth is that? Sun Yin stood upright, squinting toward the distance. The system interface popped up automatically. Detection: Tier 2 poisonous sea fog detected in adjacent waters. Sea fog origin: toxic gas released by geological activity on the seafloor. Inhalation causes respiratory burns, mental confusion, and organ failure, leading to fatality within 5 minutes of exposure. Current wind direction: southwest. Estimated contact time: 30 minutes. Warning: the host and crew's current physiques cannot resist Tier 2 sea fog. The Tier 2 wooden boat lacks any poison-resistant protective measures. Suggestion: evacuate the current waters immediately. All amusement vanished from Lu Yu's features in an instant. Toxic gas. He turned toward the mother and daughter. Move toward the stern. Where are the oars? Sun Yin paled instantly and pointed to 2 pairs of wooden oars hanging beside the cabin. Lu Yu sprinted over to grab both sets, tossing one pair to Su Wantong while gripping the other firmly in his own hands. Su Wantong caught the oars, looking stunned. I don't know how to row. Sit at the bow and follow my rhythm. Lu Yu knelt at the left side of the stern, dipping his oar into the seawater. Sun Yin, sit amidships and steady the boat's center of gravity. Su, take the right oar. I'll count the beat. 1, 2, 1, 2. Push off now. Both oars sliced into the water at the same moment, sending the boat surging forward abruptly. Drawing upon his newly amplified strength, Lu Yu tensed his waist, abdomen, and leg muscles with every stroke, churning up large splashes on each pull. Su Wantong struggled to match the tempo at first, nearly slamming her oar against the gunnels several times. After a dozen strokes, she gradually found the right rhythm, angling the oar blades correctly to cut water resistance and noticeably boosting the vessel's speed. The poisonous fog pursued them relentlessly, advancing far faster than Lu Yu had anticipated. The dark, gray, gaseous mass writhed across the sea surface like a living beast, frothing with tiny white bubbles along its perimeter. The seawater beneath the fog morphed into murky dark green wherever the haze spread, as if some unknown substance was dissolving into the ocean. Lu Yu caught a faint, foul odor drifting on the breeze, an acrid mix of rotten eggs and decayed seaweed. Even a shallow breath left his throat stinging uncomfortably. "Don't look back," he gritted out sharply. "Row harder." Su Wantong poured every ounce of her newly enhanced physical strength into each stroke, no longer feeling drained or fatigued. Su Nian crouched beside the cabin, her gaze locked firmly on the clear stretch of open water ahead, her lips trembling yet her body remaining eerily stable. The boat cut forward through the waves while the fog closed in. At its closest, the mist was less than 20 meters behind them, the stench growing overwhelming and sending a tingling numbness creeping up the nape of Lu Yu's neck. He drew a deep breath, channeling his last reserves of strength into his arms. The wooden hull lurched forward, breaking free of the fog's range entirely. The water ahead cleared once more, pale gray sky and teal-blue sea stretching unobstructed to the horizon. Lu Yu gasped for breath, dropping his oars to slump against the boat's railing. Su Wantong set down her oars as well, sweat dripping down her temples and soaking the back of her shirt completely. Su Nian stood and glanced backward. The dark gray fog slowly altered its trajectory, drifting northwest like a sated beast wandering away. A heavy silence hung over the three for a long while. "If we'd been without oars, or slowed down even a little bit," Su Nian spoke first, her voice quiet and shaky. Lu Yu wiped sweat from his face. "Slack off for a second and we'd be dead. We have to grow stronger, upgrade this boat, raise our strength stats. Next time we face a hazard like this, we need a way to endure it instead of only running for our lives." Su Wantong lifted her head to meet his eyes, her expression hardened with newfound resolve. Dusk fully settled over the ocean. The pale gray sky deepened into near black indigo, sparse stars pricking the dark vault overhead. The sea calmed, gentle swells rocking the wooden boat softly. Lu Yu hung the oars back on the gunwale before stepping into the cabin to inspect the interior. The space stayed dry and draft-free. 2 people could lie comfortably inside, while 3 could squeeze in with minimal crowding. He stepped back onto the deck and glanced towards Su Nian. "Wash yourselves down with seawater to clean up for the night." Shortly afterward, all 3 finished washing and redressed themselves. They sat together on the deck for a while until drowsiness washed over them. "How should we arrange sleeping spots tonight?" Su Nian flushed again, yet answered without hesitation this time. "I'll sleep in the middle." "No way." "No." Lu Yu and Su Wantong replied in unison, exchanging a brief wordless glance. "You take the innermost spot," Lu Yu told Su Nian firmly. "Why me? I won't have anywhere to rest my arm if you're wedged in the center." Su Wantong tugged at her daughter's sleeve. "Just do as he says." Su Nian pressed her lips together in a pout. "Why do we always have to listen to him?" Lu Yu's expression turned sharp in an instant. Su Nian recognized that cold glint, the same look he'd worn when slaying sea prey earlier that day. She flinched backward, hiding half of her body behind her mother. "Is he actually going to hurt me?" Fear flooded Su Nian's mind, and she instantly regretted talking back to Lu Yu. Lu Yu had only intentionally intimidated her. "Defying your captain's orders? I wouldn't hesitate to toss you overboard as shark bait." "I'm sorry, don't hurt me." Su Nian surrendered quickly, thoroughly frightened by Lu Yu's ruthlessness throughout the day. "You're quick to apologize. As punishment for your attitude, go fishing now. You're not allowed to sleep until you catch fish worth 20 system coins." "I'm going right now." Su Nian grabbed the fishing rod hastily and hurried to the stern without looking back. Once Su Nian was out of earshot, Su Wantong turned toward Lu Yu. "You did that on purpose, didn't you?" Lu Yu smiled faintly. "It's tough love training. She's far too timid for these dangerous ocean waters. I think you just wanted us to have private space. Come on, Su. We've worn ourselves ragged today. It's time to rest." He stepped into the cabin first, where the blanket they'd used the previous night was already spread across the wooden floorboards. Su Wantong cast one last glance at her daughter fishing out on the deck before following him inside. She understood exactly what was going to happen between them. After the vulnerable closeness they'd shared the previous night, she had grown comfortable with his presence and trusted him fully in this isolated survival scenario. She would have sought him out long ago if Su Nian hadn't been around. The cabin sank into shadow after the wooden hatch was lowered, only thin streaks of faint moonlight seeping through cracks in the planks. The small enclosure felt cramped and confined. Lu Yu sat by the cabin entrance, stripping off his tattered outer jacket in 2 quick motions before peeling off his shirt. He laid down on his side against the outer wall of the cabin, bare-chested. The cabin door stood ajar behind him, cool sea wind drifting through the gaps to cut through the warmth inside the small space. Su Wantong remained seated against the inner bulkhead, knees drawn up to her chest as she clutched the edge of the blanket tightly in her fingers. She heard the soft creak of wood as Lu Yu settled onto the floor, and felt her heartbeat quicken noticeably in the enclosed quiet. The cabin was so narrow her toes could brush against his calves with a simple stretch of her legs. She could smell the mingled scent of seawater and stove smoke clinging to his skin. Su Wantong bit her lip and slowly unbuttoned the top button of her shirt, undoing each fastener one at a time with tiny, cautious movements. The tips of her ears burned hot in the darkness, her soft figure revealed beneath her plain, white cotton undergarment. She grew warm under his unwavering gaze, her throat tightening slightly. "Turn around, please. I'm not moving." "Lu Yu." "Su." Lu Yu's voice dropped to a low, husky tone. "Do you realize how different you are now compared to before?" Su Wantong squeezed the blanket tighter between her fingers. "Back then," Lu Yu drawled softly, "you always carried such a stern, unapproachable aura. I'd get lost staring at you, and the second you shot me a sharp glare, I'd duck my head and pretend to focus on my own tasks." Su Wantong's lips trembled, overcome with a tangled mix of exasperation and quiet vulnerability. "What exactly were you staring at back then?" "All the parts you're letting me see right now." Lu Yu let out a quiet chuckle, lowering his voice even further. "I don't have to only watch from afar anymore." Su Wantong loosened her grip on the blanket, propping her palms flat against the wooden floor to shift her body a little closer to Lu Yu. Her eyelashes fluttered rapidly in the dark, her tone soft and muted. "Are you saying all this to make your long wait feel worthwhile? You'll feel if it was worth it soon enough. Lie down first." Su Wantong took a slow breath and laid down on her side. Her form was fully exposed to Lu Yu's line of sight. As she rested one cheek on her forearm, the other hand still fisted in the fabric of the blanket, her breathing shallow and slow. She could feel his gaze sweeping slowly over her frame from her shoulders all the way down to her ankles, warm and palpable in the dark cabin. "Have you finished looking?" Her voice was muffled against the blanket, trembling faintly. "Not even close." Lu Yu rested his fingertips lightly against the hollow of her lower back, then retrieved the yin-yang pill from his system inventory, peeling off its thin wax coating in the dark. The pill split cleanly into 2 halves, a deep navy blue piece paired with a pale crimson red piece, carrying a faint herbal aroma. He placed the red half into his own mouth to hold on his tongue, then pressed the blue half gently into Su Wantong's open palm. Su Wantong's fingers brushed the cool medicinal chunk, prompting her to lift her head toward Lu Yu in surprise. She could not make out his facial features in the pitch dark, but felt his thumb give a light, reassuring squeeze against her palm. She stared down at the blue pill fragment, then back toward Lu Yu's silhouette. Assuming he had purchased the medicine from the system shop, she did not voice any questions regarding its origin or function. After a brief moment of hesitation, she placed the pill onto her tongue. It dissolved with a cool, bitter taste. A warm surge spreading outward from her stomach to every vessel in her body seconds later. Several minutes passed before Lu Yu leaned his mouth close to her ear, his whisper barely audible. "Su, let us begin the paired physique refinement now." Su Wantong's heart skipped a beat. "This pill boosts both our physiques drastically when we channel our internal energy in synchronized paired cultivation," Lu Yu explained in a low murmur. "When did you take it out?" "I stashed it away while we were cooking over the stove." "You never noticed, did you?" A quiet smile laced his words. Su Wantong's ears burned crimson in the darkness as she chewed lightly on her lower lip. She had long suspected Lu Yu would seek this opportunity. She'd sensed his restrained longing the night prior when he'd held her close. The paired refinement, guided by the yin-yang pill, would let them absorb the medicinal power together to temper their bodies, breaking through their current strength bottlenecks while shielding them from future ocean dangers. She hadn't expected him to act so swiftly, nor to make such thorough preparations. He'd sent Su Nian off to fish out on deck and somehow gotten hold of this special medicinal pill. Her body reacted before her mind could process what was happening. Tiny goosebumps rose across her skin where his fingers brushed her waist. Nian might come barging in any second. Her voice dropped to a faint breath, barely audible. "There's no chance of that without my say-so." Lu Yu pressed his lips close, brushing them lightly against her earlobe. Su Wantong's fingers tightened around the edge of the blanket. Fear mingled with a strange restlessness, a warm tingle spreading from her chest down through her limbs. "Lu Yu." Her throat tightened, her tone trembling. Couldn't you wait until tomorrow? I can't. She turned her face away and buried it in the blanket, her shoulders hunching slightly. The cabin was shrouded in deep darkness, so dark nothing could be distinguished. The howl of the sea wind seeped through the cracks around the door, a low, mournful sound. The boat rocked gently atop the waves, lifted and lowered slowly in rhythm with the ocean swell. Sister Sue. His voice rumbled deep in his chest. Did you ever imagine something like this would happen between us? Quit rambling and come over here already. Her nails dug lightly into the back of his hand, her grip firm, yet not pushing him away. Lu Yu was caught off guard by how bold Su Wantong could be, her demeanor far more forward than his own. He reached for the medicinal item to finish administering its effects. The boat swayed softly beneath the night sky. Behind the cabin door, hidden under the blanket, the two figures huddled close together in quiet companionship within the dark space. A system panel flickered dimly to life in the shadows. Yin-Yang pill effects fully absorbed. Host strength stat. 170/170ths upper limit surpassed crew member Su Wantong strength stat. 100/100ths physical constitution synchronization complete. Notice, residual medicinal properties will continue gradually improving physical condition. Lu Yu opened his eyes in the dark to glance at the glowing text, then closed them again. 170 points. This boost was far more efficient than hunting sea creatures for stat gains. With the process finished, he rolled onto his back and rested his arm beneath his head as a pillow. Su Wantong redid her outer clothing, her back turned toward him with steady, even breathing, her chest rising and falling gently. It's over now? Can I call Nian back inside? Su Wantong spoke up. Lu Yu smiled faintly. Of course, Sister Sue. I'll go get her right away. As he stood, his hand gave her shoulder a light pat. Hey, a dull warmth lingered where his hand touched her, and she was about to scold him. But Lu Yu had already stepped out of the cabin. When he emerged onto the deck, the cold night sea breeze washed over his bare torso, sharp with the salty tang of seawater. He wore only trousers, faint shallow scratch marks scattered across his shoulders, barely visible beneath the faint starlight. He rolled his neck, eliciting a series of crisp pops, feeling utterly revitalized. His strength had skyrocketed from 60 all the way to 170. Every trace of physical fatigue vanished, including the weariness from staying up late the previous night. He was confident he could lift the black spine shark they'd caught earlier and swing it around with one hand if he wanted to. Sun Yin sat at the bow with her back to the cabin, tightly gripping her fishing rod. A faint fluorescent glow floated on the water from the buoy, a built-in feature of the system-issued rod to track catches after dark. She mumbled nervously to herself, hoping she wouldn't hook any large, aggressive marine life. Just small fish, please, only small fish. Small fish are barely worth any system coins. Do you plan to fish out here all night? Sun Yin stiffened noticeably at the sound of Lu Yu's voice, but did not turn around. Lu Yu crouched down beside her and tilted his head to study her face. How much value have your catches racked up so far? Sun Yin turned her face away, hiding her wind-chapped pale lips and reddened nose, her tone sullen. Just ask the system yourself. Lu Yu let out a short laugh and eyed the handful of medium-sized fish laid beside her line. Then he called out to the void. System, calculate the total value of Sun Yin's catch. Current accumulated value of crew member Sun Yin's catches, 23 system coins. 23 coins is enough. Head back inside to sleep. He lowered himself fully onto the deck after speaking. Sun Yin finally twisted to look at him, her gaze darting quickly over his bare upper body before she hastily looked away. Noticing he showed no intention of returning to the cabin to rest, she hesitated before speaking. What about you? She'd spotted faint red marks on his shoulders. Though the darkness kept her from making out their source, she assumed they were scrapes from handling fishing gear. I'm spending the night out here on the deck. Lu Yu stood and stretched his limbs, his joints popping loudly. I've got far too much energy to sleep, so I'll try some night fishing. Sun Yin eyed him suspiciously. What exactly were you two doing inside the cabin just now? I got disinfectant and wound powder from the Level Up gift pack. I asked Sister Sue to help treat my injuries. Then I rested for a short while once my wounds were tended. Lu Yu maintained a perfectly calm expression. What else did you think we were doing? Sun Yin parted her lips, tempted to ask outright if he'd taken advantage of her mother while she was gone. Yet she swallowed the question back down. She clutched her fishing rod in silence for a moment before rising to her feet with a tight frown. I'm heading in. You need to keep a respectful distance from my mother from now on. When have I ever acted out of line? Lu Yu tilted his jaw into a lazy grin. Ignoring his reply, Sun Yin hurried to the cabin entrance and slipped inside through the wooden panel. Dim darkness filled the cabin. Su Wantong lay curled on the blanket facing inward, her breathing slow and regular, as if she were fast asleep. Su Nian eased the door shut quietly, then knelt beside her mother, lowering her voice to a whisper. "Mom, are you awake?" Su Wantong stirred slightly and rolled over, her eyes half-lidded in the dark. "Nian? Finished fishing. I've caught enough. Lu Yu said I earned 23 coins and told me to come sleep." Su Wantong shifted over on the blanket to make space for her daughter. Su Nian crawled under the covering but did not lie down immediately. She leaned close to her mother's face, trying to pick up any subtle clues from her expression. "Mom, did Lu Yu do anything inappropriate to you?" Su Wantong's heartbeat skipped a beat. Her features gave nothing away in the shadow, yet her throat grew tight. What would he possibly do? "You know what I mean." Su Nian's ears burned hot, her voice dwindling to a murmur. "That creep has always stared at you strangely. I was scared he'd take liberties with me out of the way. Nothing happened at all." Su Wantong's tone was steady, edged with the gentle scold of a parent. "You're letting your imagination run wild. He only rested for a while in here. Internal thought, just rested right beside me." Her outward demeanor remained completely composed. Su Nian stared at her mother's face for several seconds, able to see nothing more than a vague silhouette in the blackness. She was about to lie down when her nose twitched abruptly. "What's that strange smell?" Su Wantong's entire body tensed up instantly. Su Nian wrinkled her brows and sniffed the air carefully around her. "I can't put a name to it. It's just odd." Unaware the scent stemmed from the lingering medicinal aura of the pill, she glanced around the cabin. "Is it just sea air seeping through the door cracks?" "Probably." Su Wantong's throat felt parched. She rolled onto her back, facing away from her daughter. She pressed her face into the blanket to slowly release the breath she'd been holding. Her fingers crumpled the fabric tightly as she silently berated Lu Yu. He'd been reckless with the medicinal treatment earlier, then casually wandered out to fish while she was left fabricating excuses for her daughter. She squeezed her eyes shut hard, yet another thought surfaced unbidden. Still, the medicinal boost had helped ease the strain on her body significantly. In this ocean apocalypse, she'd long abandoned rigid expectations she'd once clung to in the old world. For a split second, she found herself quietly grateful for the collapse of normal society. She forced the thought away at once. Not now, not with her daughter lying right beside her. Su Nian lay awake for a long time, her mind racing with unanswered questions. Why was Lu Yu so full of energy? Why had her mother fallen into such a deep sleep? What was that odd scent? What had left that damp patch on the blanket? Was Lu Yu truly innocent? Something felt off, yet she could not pinpoint the exact problem. She rolled over to face her mother's back and whispered again. "Mom, are you absolutely certain he didn't do anything?" "I'm certain. Go to sleep now." Su Nian bit her lower lip and dropped the subject. She closed her eyes and pulled the blanket tighter around herself, yet that faint sweet briny odor hung persistently in her nostrils. Su Wantong held her breathing steady, her ears pricked open until Su Nian's breathing softened into the deep rhythm of slumber. Only then did she fully relax, burying her face in the blanket to silently curse Lu Yu once more. A faint, involuntary smile tugged at the corners of her mouth in the dark. Outside on the bow, Lu Yu had no inkling of the conversation unfolding inside the cabin. He gripped his new fishing rod and stared at the floating marker bobbing on the water, the night wind brushing his hair back from his forehead. Instead of speculating about the mother and daughter's exchange, his thoughts drifted to far larger matters. "System," he called inwardly. "Online. There are other human survivors out on these waters besides us, correct?" The system fell silent for 2 heartbeats before displaying a new panel. "Affirmative." Explanation: all teams within Tier 3 waters are separated by isolation barriers generated by the Deep Blue Whale. These protective fields prevent premature contact between low-level groups to stop weaker teams from being wiped out early on. Barriers will deactivate permanently once your vessel is upgraded to Tier 3, opening access to the full Tier 3 sea zone. Encounters with other survivor teams will become possible afterward. Warning: external teams may be cooperative or openly hostile. Lu Yu's easy smile faded into a flat line. "So once we hit Tier 3, we'll be able to compete with other groups over resources?" "Correct. Only one world core exists in total. A single victor will emerge in the end." Lu Yu stared at the glowing text for a long moment, ignoring the slight dip of his fishing buoy on the water's surface. He wondered if rival groups also possessed functional systems, in-game shops, fishing mechanics, and character progression systems identical to his own. He ran his tongue over his lower lip, his casual grin fading into a cold, calculating glint in his eyes. Conflict with other factions was inevitable after the Tier 3 upgrade, His current strength rested at 170 points. Su Wantong held 100 points, and Su Nian's stats had also improved gradually. Even so, he questioned if the three of them would be strong enough when clashes broke out. He needed to maximize his ship upgrades, gear quality, and combat prowess before meeting other survivors. With earning more system coins as his top priority, the fishing buoy plunged sharply underwater. Lu Yu snapped his wrist upward, pulling the fishing line taut against the resistance below. The creature struggled far more weakly than the black-spined shark he'd caught previously. He hauled it onto the deck with minimal effort, revealing a half-meter-long silvery fish shimmering under the faint starlight. A system notification popped up immediately. Target: silverback perch tier 0.8 length, 0.5 meters value, 12 system coins struggle intensity, 8/20, 12 coins. Lu Yu unhooked the fish and stored it within his system inventory. He rebaited his line and cast it back out, settling back down amid the sea breeze as he gazed out toward the endless black ocean stretching into the distance. Sparse stars dotted the sky, the wind mild, and the sea empty as far as the eye could see. He tightened his grip on the fishing rod, a slow smirk spreading across his face once again. Surviving this apocalypse alone would grow dull eventually. Facing off against other survivors would make this struggle far more worthwhile. The following dawn, soft morning light seeped through gaps in the cabin door and roused Su Nian from sleep. She'd been jostled awake by lack of space. She'd originally fallen asleep pressed against the inner cabin wall. Yet now she was crammed flush against the wooden planks, her face nearly pressed to the surface. She frowned and rolled over, her groggy eyes flying wide open in shock. Lu Yu was curled behind her mother, one arm wrapped around Su Wantong's midriff with his palm resting gently against her abdomen. His face nestled in the hair at the nape of her neck as he slept soundly. Su Wantong lay curled with her back pressed to his chest, the intimate posture suggesting he had stayed in that hold the entire night. Su Nian's mind reeled in shock. She shot upright at once, reached across her mother's body, and yanked hard on Lu Yu's arm to pull him away. Get up right now? Lu Yu stumbled awake from the sudden tug, blinking groggily at the furious young woman before him, his voice rough with sleep. Why are you shouting so early in the morning? You swore you were sleeping on the deck. Su Nian kept her voice hushed yet sharp with anger. What are you doing back inside here? Lu Yu rubbed his eyes slowly and leaned back against the cabin wall, glancing over at the still resting Su Wantong. She had woken up as well, but kept her eyes shut, the tips of her ears flushing pink. This is my boat. I get to choose where I rest. Lu Yu yawned and glanced towards Su Wantong. Ain't that right, Sister Su? Su Wantong finally opened her eyes. She rolled onto her back to look first at her fuming daughter, then at Lu Yu's unapologetic expression, letting out a quiet sigh. Can't the two of you get along peacefully first thing in the morning? Mom, he would catch cold sleeping exposed on the deck. Su Wantong's tone remained level. We haven't tested the ship's weight distribution since its last upgrade. His weight on the outer side helps stabilize the vessel. Su Nian scrambled to find a counterargument, unable to deny the logic held some merit, even if the excuse felt flimsy at best. She was her mother's daughter. They were supposed to stand united against outsiders, yet her parent consistently defended Lu Yu. She fumed silently, unable to process why her mother would side with this strange man. Finally grumbling out a single retort. He still shouldn't hold you while he sleeps. Physical contact retains body heat to ward off the cold. You're too young to understand these practical survival methods. Lu Yu stood up, pulled his coat off the cabin wall, and slipped it on before ducking out of the cabin. I'll start a fire to cook breakfast. Get yourselves ready and come out to eat. Su Nian glared at his retreating figure before turning back to Su Wantong. What really happened last night? Nothing whatsoever took place. Su Wantong folded the blanket neatly, her tone as casual as commenting on fair weather. Go help with the meal before he handles all the work by himself. Su Nian pressed her lips together with lingering questions, but her mother had already stepped out through the cabin entrance. She stood frozen in place, still sensing something was amiss without any concrete proof to back her suspicion. All three had been fully clothed overnight, with no obvious irregularities to find. Ugh, he definitely took advantage of being close to her regardless. Out on the deck, Lu Yu had assembled the portable stove with a metal pot set over the flame. He twisted open the fuel canister, bright blue and yellow flames flickering to life beneath the cookware. Retrieving the silverback perch he'd caught the previous night, plus leftover black-spined shark meat from his inventory. He chopped the seafood into chunks and dropped them into the pot with fresh water, coarse salt, and dried chili flakes before covering the pot with its lid. Su Wantong stepped onto the deck just as he sealed the lid. She shot him a quick glance, then sat beside the stove to warm her hands over the fire, tucking wind-tousled strands of hair back behind her ears without speaking a word. The soft, mature aura about her was palpable in the crisp morning air, drawing Lu Yu's gaze naturally toward her. Su Nian emerged last, squatting down on the opposite side of the stove with her knees pulled to her chest. Steam curled out from under the pot lid, filling the air with a rich, salty seafood aroma that prompted an embarrassing growl from her empty stomach. The three sat huddled around the small fire. Sunlight spilled over the pale horizon, gilding the bow and stern of the rocking boat with soft gold. The wind was calm and the waves gentle, the vessel swaying slowly like a cradle upon the ocean surface. Lu Yu lifted the lid and stirred the simmering broth with a wooden spoon, ladling the first full bowl and handing it to Su Wantong. "Breakfast for you first, Sister Su." Su Nian scowled instantly. "Why does she get served before me? Have I wronged you somehow? You've looked at me with hostility ever since we first crossed paths back when you were in school. Mind your own business." Lu Yu filled a second bowl and passed it over to the girl. "Here you go. Stop complaining and eat." Su Nian accepted the bowl with a huff, yet the piping hot broth quickly melted her irritation as she sipped the liquid and sighed in relief. Lu Yu poured himself a serving and took a slow sip. The scalding savory soup paired perfectly with tender fish flesh. The warm meal settled comfortably in his stomach and offered a fleeting sense of normalcy amid the brutal apocalypse. He looked towards Su Wantong as she ate, her eyelashes trembling faintly in the sunlight, her lips flushed pink from the hot broth as she ate with quiet refinement. Without thinking, he picked up a chunk of fish with his chopsticks and dropped it into her bowl. Su Wantong froze and lifted her gaze to meet his eyes. Lu Yu offered only a lopsided grin before returning to his own meal. The tips of her ears flushed bright red as she slowly lifted the fish into her mouth, chewing at a noticeably slower pace than before. Watching the quiet exchange, Su Nian suddenly lost her appetite for the soup. "Could you stop being overly affectionate with my mother?" Lu Yu did not lift his eyes from his bowl. "Should I toss her overboard into the sea instead to satisfy you?" "That's not what I meant." "Then what exactly do you want me to do?" Lu Yu set his bowl down and faced her directly. "You complain when I serve her soup, complain when I give her extra fish. If my actions bother you that much, prepare all the meals and tend to your mother's needs from now on. I'll wash my hands of it entirely." Su Nian fell speechless, swallowing hard on her mouth full of fish before mumbling a quiet retort. "That isn't what I was trying to say." "Then clarify your meaning." "Forget it." Su Nian lowered her head to her soup, the tips of her ears burning red as she fell silent. Su Wantong shot Lu Yu a subtle look of mild reproach, wordlessly telling him to stop teasing her daughter, though a faint smile tugged secretly at her lips. She returned to her broth, sunlight framing her figure from behind and casting her in a soft, gentle glow as she ate. Lu Yu watched her quietly, a warm feeling stirring gently in his chest. He admired the way her eyelashes brushed her cheekbones when she bowed her head, the pink tint of her lips from the hot soup, and the small, neat motion of her lips to catch every last drop of broth once she finished eating. For 3 years, he'd watched the soft fall of her eyelashes and the faint upturn of her lips whenever she bent over to great assignments. Back then, all he could do was observe, imagine, and tear his gaze away the moment the class bell rang to pretend he was buried in his exercises. Now she sat right beside him, sipping soup he'd simmered, her bowl filled with chunks of meat he'd picked out for her. The gratification of seeing his long-held wishes fulfilled was far greater than the thrill of reeling in a black-spined shark. When the broth in the pot was gone, Lu Yu stowed his cooking gear. He rinsed the bowls and chopsticks with seawater before storing them in his system space, then stood and stared out toward the distant horizon. Morning light had dyed most of the ocean's surface bright, yet the water ahead bore a starkly different hue compared to the day prior. Where the iron-gray water ended at an invisible boundary, the sea abruptly deepened into an inky, pitch-black blue, as if the seawater's density had spiked sharply past that threshold. "System," he called out. "Online. What is this discolored stretch of water up ahead?" Scanning detected. The entrance to Level 2 waters. Compared to Level 1 waters, Level 2 features taller waves, stronger undercurrents, as well as drastically larger and more aggressive marine life. Host current strength stat, 170. Entry requirements satisfied. Access permitted. Lu Yu glanced back at Su Wantong and Su Nian. Su Wantong stood behind him, her gaze fixed on the darkening ocean, lips pressed firmly together with no trace of hesitation. Su Nian stood beside her, fingers tightening around her fishing rod, but remaining silent. "Let's go in." Lu Yu picked up the oars. The small wooden boat lacked automatic navigation. Thankfully, his boosted physique lent him immense strength, making rowing effortless. It took mere moments for the boat to cross the color divide, and the sea shifted instantly the second they passed the line. The waves swelled, roughly half a meter higher than before, sending the boat rocking violently up and down. The wind changed too, no longer a gentle caress. It blew steadily sideways, thick with sea spray and the fetid stench of rotting kelp, tangling Su Nian's hair across her face. Lu Yu gripped the boat's rail tightly to steady his balance. Staring out at the churning waters ahead, a smile tugged at his mouth. Taller waves, fiercer winds, deadlier prey, and far more valuable catches. He cast his line to begin his day of fishing. The float had barely touched the water when it was dragged straight under the surface. Lu Yu flicked his wrist, bending the bamboo fishing pole into a sharp arc. Whatever lurked below fought harder than the black-spined shark he'd caught before, but with his strength sitting at 170, he planted his feet in a wide stance and hauled twice to drag a shadowed shape above the waves. It was a dark red fish, just under a meter long, its body slick with viscous mucus and faint fluorescence glowing along the edges of its fins. The system prompt popped up immediately, scanning fishing target data. Target: Fluorescent Manta Ray Tier 1, edible length, 1.2 meters, salvageable materials, fluorescent glands, fins value, 25 system coins, special skill, fluorescent coating. Fins and mucus emit bioluminescence lasting 12 hours, usable for nighttime illumination or bait. Remaining struggle value, 15/50ths notice. Capturing prey with unique abilities carries a chance to drop skill scrolls. Lu Yu stared at the text and let out a quiet laugh. This thing glows. Hope it drops a skill scroll. He unhooked the manta ray and leaned in for a closer look. Even in the morning sunlight, a faint cool blue luminescence lingered on the fin edges, dim like the glow of a watch dial in the dark. He held up the catch and spoke to the system. Salvage the materials. Confirmed salvage, fluorescent glands plus fins. 25 system coins credited to account. Fish meat stored within spatial storage. Flesh contains trace luciferin. Sustained consumption improves night vision. Current system coin balance. 80 no skill scroll obtained this capture. Su Nian had earned 23 coins from her catch the previous night, and he'd gained another 25 with his manta ray haul. Combined with this latest reward, his total hit 80 coins. Night vision boost as well. Lu Yu raised an eyebrow. That's a solid find. Shame nothing dropped for the skill though. He stowed the fish meat and baited his hook with leftover fish flesh before casting out once more. He was in excellent spirits. Nothing compared to the calm satisfaction of fishing, especially when every catch was no ordinary sea creature. Su Wantong and Su Nian picked up their own rods to join him. They were a team now. They could not rely entirely on Lu Yu to handle every task, and each needed to pull their own weight. Su Nian still harbored grievances toward Lu Yu, but understood their precarious situation well enough to act sensibly. The waves grew rougher, rocking the boat so violently Su Nian had to brace herself against the cabin wall to stay upright, yet her grip on the rod never loosened. Su Wantong knelt on the opposite side, securing her pole in place as she waited for movement from her float. Lu Yu's float vanished under the water again. He snapped the pole upward, met with thrashing far more ferocious than the manta ray's struggles, the fishing line creaking taut under the strain. Leaning back against his weight to pull, a massive splash erupted on the water's surface as a slender black silhouette surged out of the waves. This creature was twice the length of the fluorescent manta ray, its pitch-black body lined with jagged bony spines running down its spine. Scanning fishing target data target. Blackspine pufferfish tier 2 length, 2.8 meters, salvageable materials, spinal bones, spines, hide. Value, 45 system coins, special skill, toxic coating. Poison sacs secrete paralyzing venom that numbs targets on contact. Usable for crafting poisoned hunting arrows. Remaining struggle value, 80/150 of venomous fish. Lu Yu's grin widened. All the good stuff's showing up today. He stored the black-spine pufferfish, raising his coin balance to 125. Meanwhile, Su Wantong reeled in her line to land a common sea bass worth 8 coins. It held no special abilities, yet its flesh was high quality for eating. Are regular fish still common even in Tier 2 waters? Lu Yu had assumed all catches here would be rare, valuable specimens. Yet ordinary fish still lingered in these depths. Su Nian had modest success, reeling in 2 silver threadfish for a combined total of 7 coins. By mid-morning, their deck was piled high with their collective catches, and Lu Yu's system coins slowly climbed to roughly 160, edging close to the 200 coin threshold he needed for an upgrade. 200 coins was never his final goal. He aimed to surpass that number, ensuring he kept spare coins after paying the upgrade cost. Lu Yu considered his luck subpar. He'd caught 2 creatures with unique abilities yet failed to receive a single skill scroll from either haul. Skill scrolls held immense appeal as reliable lifelines in dangerous waters. Waves in Tier 2 waters continued swelling, the black seawater churning violently with crests twice as tall as they'd been at dawn. The boat rocked so fiercely all 3 had to cling to the rail to maintain their footing. Sun Yan's complexion paled, her knuckles white where she clutched the cabin wall, but she bit her lip and endured the discomfort silently. Lu Yu pulled up his system panel. Level 2 small wooden vessel current waters. Level 2. Warning, wind force will escalate to level 6 after dark within these waters. This boat's maximum wind resistance caps at level 4. Recommend retreating to level 1 waters for shelter before nightfall. Time remaining until dusk, approximately 6 hours. Closing the panel, he turned to the mother and daughter. We head back before sundown. Fish as much as we can until then turn the boat around. Su Wantong nodded, speeding up her fishing motions. Sun Yan gritted her teeth and cast her line farther out over the waves. Lu Yu crouched at the bow, gaze sweeping the roiling dark blue ocean. Spray crashed repeatedly over the gunwale, cold and briny against his skin. Lu Yu, come quick. I've hooked something huge. Sun Yan's urgent voice cut through the wind. Lu Yu hurried over and seized her fishing rod. The pole bent into a perfect crescent the instant his hands wrapped around it, dragging his feet half an inch across the wooden deck and yanking his whole body forward. He dropped into a wide anchored stance, both hands locked tight on the pole, growling through gritted teeth. Damn, this really is massive. The system panel automatically popped open. Target? Tier 3. Injured remaining struggle value. 155/. Host current usable strength. 100 out of 170 warning. Target's remaining struggle force exceeds your active strength output threshold. Severe kickback risk detected. Suggestions. Lu Yu ignored the system's prompt entirely. Clamping his jaw tight, he jammed his toes into the gaps between the boat's wooden planks, leaning his full weight backward against the pole. Su Wantong. Sun Yan, hold on to me. His feet scraped another half-inch along the wood, his knees slamming hard into the gunwale and drawing a sharp hiss of pain from his lips. Su Wantong, grab my waist tight, he barked. Su Wantong lunged forward from behind, wrapping both arms firmly around his torso and leaning backward to add her body weight to his pull. Sun Yan scrambled to hug his thighs, the 3 linked together just as they had been when hauling in the black spine shark days prior. This foe was different, however. The creature on the line was not merely a panicking catch. It actively attacked with unrefined, brute force after being provoked. The fishing line was dragged relentlessly toward the deep sea with every sharp, savage tug. Lu Yu's knee collided brutally with the boat edge once more, sending a sharp ache shooting up his leg. System, identify this thing right now. Scanning target data. Target exceeds current system tier. Analysis delayed. Scanning complete. Target, Shadow Shark Tier 3, injured length. 4.2 meters salvageable materials, spinal bones, fangs, hide, fins, tendons value. 250 system coins. Special skill, Shadow Stealth. Completely masks presence and form underwater. Ambush burst speed increased by 300. Remaining struggle value, 155, 300's dangerous warning. Praise total struggle power surpasses your maximum possible strength output. Note, Tier 3 prey possess a significantly elevated chance of dropping skill scrolls. Releasing one hand from the pole, he shouted over his shoulder at Su Wantong. Don't let go. Pull together on my count of 3. Su Wantong froze for a split second before complying immediately. With his free hand, Lu Yu drew a new dagger he'd recently purchased for 15 system coins, its blade razor sharp. Drawing in a deep breath, he shifted his weight forward and reeled the fishing line inward half a meter. The wounded shadow shark was pulled upward 2 feet, its massive gray triangular dorsal fin slicing above the choppy waves, scarred along its jagged edge. It was clear the shark had fought another predator previously, sustaining grave injuries that drove it into these shallower waters. I see its fin, Sun Yan cried. Hurry! Her words died unfinished as the shadow shark vanished from the water's surface entirely. It did not sink downward. It erased itself completely, vanishing without a single ripple left behind. What the hell? Lu Yu's sentence died in his throat. The fierce pull on the line vanished instantly, replaced by a far more menacing drag. Something was surging straight toward him at terrifying speed. He snapped his head upward, pupils blown wide with shock. The ocean exploded directly in front of him. A dark gray shape burst out from beneath the waves at a speed his eyes could barely track, half its massive body launching over the gunwale. Its jaws lined with serrated teeth gaped wide, lunging straight for his chest. Get back! Lu Yu shoved Su Wantong and Su Nian hard to the boat's side. He only had time to raise the dagger horizontally in defense before the shark's jaws clamped down onto his left forearm. Rows of sharp teeth sank into his muscle like iron combs, warm blood welling instantly and splattering across the shark's gray hide. Blinding pain ripped through his arm, the impact hurling his body backward to slam violently against the cabin wall. A spiderweb crack split the wooden panel, and he heard a sharp cracking sound from his ribs. Su Wantong let out a shrill scream. Su Nian lost her grip on her fishing rod and collapsed onto the deck. The shadow shark remained latched onto his arm, its full body weight pinning him immobile against the cabin planks. Lu Yu's face drained of all color as blood seeped through the puncture wounds, pooling thickly across the deck beneath him. He could feel his bones grinding sickeningly under the shark's crushing bite force. Left untreated, his entire forearm would be torn apart. His right hand still gripped the dagger firmly. Twisting the blade upward, he drove the knife deep into the shark's right gill slit with every last ounce of strength he had left, burying the blade all the way to the hilt. He twisted the knife's handle sideways to tear open a jagged wound in the gill tissue. The shark's jaws flew open abruptly as its body seized in violent spasms, fresh blood gushing from its injured gill to splash across Lu Yu's face. The creature slid off the cabin wall and crashed onto the deck, its tail thrashing weakly in involuntary reflexes. Lu Yu slid down the wooden wall to sit heavily on the deck, dozens of deep puncture wounds tearing through the flesh of his left forearm. Pale white connective tissue visible in the deepest gashes. A dull, stabbing pain radiated from his fractured ribs with every shallow breath he took. His fingers never loosened around the dagger still embedded in the shark's gill, the hilt slick and slippery with warm blood. Su Wantong dropped to her knees beside him, pressing her palms hard against the upper part of his forearm to stem the bleeding. Her hands shaking violently. Hot, thick blood oozed through her fingers and dripped onto the wood. Her lips trembled so badly she could barely form coherent words. Don't move, please don't move. Su Nian pushed herself up from the opposite side of the cabin. A glancing blow from the shark's tail had scraped a large raw gash across her own left arm. Yet she ignored her injury to crawl over to Lu Yu's side, watching the mangled flesh of his forearm and his fingers growing pale from blood loss. Her eyes stung with tears she fought to hold back. She had always disliked Lu Yu, but that resentment stemmed only from his quiet affection toward her mother, and he had just sacrificed himself to save both her and her mother's lives. This was an unrepayable debt. Leaning back against the cabin wall, Lu Yu's face was ashen, yet a faint smile tugged at his blood-streaked lips, the movement pulling at his wounded mouth. Damn, this fish really does turn invisible. Remaining struggle value, 0/300. Target successfully captured. Current usable strength, 0/170th critical exhaustion state. Active injuries, severe lacerations to left forearm penetrating muscle tissue. Minimum 2 fractured ribs on right torso. Warning, blood loss exceeds 25 of total blood volume. Shock threshold imminent. Apply urgent compression hemostasis and replenish physical energy immediately. Skill scroll detected, scroll materializing. The system's voice echoed faintly inside his mind, growing muffled as his vision blurred and his surroundings swirled out of focus. Su Wantong's face, Su Nian's trembling hands, the twitching corpse of the shark on the deck, all faded at the edges with dark static creeping into his field of view. Su Wantong knelt over him. How are you feeling? Lu Yu's voice came out rough and hoarse, though he still kept a faint smile on his face. I'll live. Su Nian leaned forward anxiously. Are you all right? Lu Yu forced a grimace, flecks of blood foam coating his teeth. Relax. Your mother won't be left widowed anytime soon. Su Wantong shot him a sharp glare despite her terror. Blinking hard to cling onto his fading consciousness, Lu Yu spoke hoarsely to Su Wantong. I'm counting on you to take care of things for me right now. Su Wantong paid no mind to his words. Her hands shook badly, yet she retrieved the medical bandages awarded from the previous system upgrade, wrapping his wounded forearm tightly layer upon layer. Blood crusted along her fingernails, but she did not pause to wipe it clean. Su Nian pressed hard against the bleeding points on Lu Yu's arm, her jaw clenched tight as restrained tears glistened at the corners of her eyes. Lu Yu tilted his head back against the wall, his vision swimming, a thick metallic taste rising in his throat from his damaged ribs, likely internal lung trauma. He swallowed down the bitter mouthful of blood, forcing out his last reserves of strength to address the system weakly. The scroll. Skill scroll fully materialized. A blood-red glowing orb slowly drifted upward from the shark's corpse, hovering roughly half a meter above the deck, like a solidified bead of blood. Its core was near black, ringed with a thin band of dim crimson light, polished smooth like refined ruby glowing faintly under the midday sun. The system interface unfurled before his eyes. Scroll name, Shadow Hunt Permanent. Fusible rank, Special. Effect, grants Shadow Stealth upon fusion. Fully masked presence and physical form within water for 30 seconds. Movement speed increased by 200 during activation. Cooldown, 24 hours. Bonus passive effect, heightened perception of deep-sea organisms and immediate threats. Detect large hidden aquatic predators within a 50-meter radius and sense imminent danger within 5 meters. Fusion method, direct physical contact with the scroll entity. Fusion process lasts 3 minutes and cannot be interrupted mid-process. Warning. Host is in critical physical condition. Consciousness must remain stable during fusion. Process will terminate automatically upon loss of consciousness. Lu Yu tried pushing himself upright with his uninjured right hand, but collapsed back against the wall immediately. His left arm was completely useless, and every breath sent searing pain through his fractured ribs. He stared at the floating red orb hovering an arm's length away from him. Su Wantong, he rasped weakly. Pass that orb into my hand for me. No matter his injuries, he needed to claim this valuable ability first and foremost. Su Wantong glanced up at the floating light speck, then looked down at Lu Yu's ashen face drained of blood. She did not ask for an explanation. She reached out, plucked the crimson light particle, and set it into his outstretched palm. She harbored no desire to claim it for herself whatsoever. A crimson color? Explanation. Standard attributes are ranked as follows: white common, green fine, blue rare, purple epic, gold legendary. Crimson ranks as a special attribute, separate from the standard grading system. Attribute types: permanent/temporary. Permanent attributes. They serve as a source of unique abilities for the host or crew members. Merging with the attribute grants the individual a corresponding special power. Temporary attributes, restricted by usage counts or duration, vanishing once expended. The dropped attribute obtained this time is a permanent crimson attribute. Lu Yu's breath hitched. He stared fixedly at the crimson glow for 3 full seconds. Merge. The light speck sank into his skin like a water droplet pulled into a magnet. A scorching surge raced up his arm from his palm, tearing through the torn muscles and lacerated wounds on his left arm. His entire body tensed sharply, jaw clamped tight. A low groan escaped his throat. When the searing heat passed his fractured ribs, it felt as though a red-hot iron rod was twisting inside his chest cavity. His back arched violently, veins bulging across his forehead. Sweat streaked down his temples, mixing freely with his blood. Su Wantong gripped his shoulder firmly. Su Nian gaped, watching his shifting expression while keeping steady pressure on the bandage. For 3 minutes, Lu Yu's muscles convulsed violently. Blood continued seeping from his left arm wound, yet he endured the agony in total silence. Once the burning sensation faded, he slowly unclenched his fist and let out a long breath. The sharp stabbing pain in his chest dulled slightly, whether from pain relief or simple numbness he could not tell. Still, his mind cleared completely, and light returned to his pale eyes. Merge complete. Host has acquired the special ability, Shadow Stealth. Cooldown, 24 hours. Conceal your presence and silhouette in deep water while boosting movement speed by 200 for a duration of 30 seconds. Lu Yu glanced down at his injured left arm. The bleeding had not stopped, soaking the bandage entirely red. Even so, the burning aftermath restored sensation to his muscles, and he could barely wiggle his fingers. I was already badly wounded. This ordeal nearly finished me off. Level 3 injured Shadow Shark has been captured. Current recyclable value, 250 system coins. Confirm recycling? Recycle. His voice cracked faintly. Recycling confirmed. Shadow Shark Level 3. Shark spine, teeth, hide, fins and tendons converted for 250 system coins. Funds deposited. Excess organic material cannot be stored as its total value exceeds system storage limits. Current system coin balance, 395. Ship upgrade requirements satisfied. Upgrading to level 3 vessel costs 200 system coins. Proceed with the upgrade? Hold off on the upgrade for now. Lu Yu turned his head and coughed, a streak of dark red blood oozing from the corner of his mouth. Patch up everything and head back to the first-tier C area. I can't push on any longer. Su Wantong said nothing. She knelt down to take over Su Nian's position, pressing the wound. unwrapping the first aid kit to apply a tighter layer of bandages with each loop. Sun Yin stepped back a pace, staring at Lu Yu's pallid features and the pool of dark blood mixed with flesh fragments on the deck. Her lips parted, then she muttered quietly, "You're incredibly tough to kill." Lu Yu caught the comment and tilted his head toward her. "What did you say?" "I said you look a right mess after getting banged up like this." Lu Yu grinned, blood coating his teeth. He knew Sun Yin's words held no mockery, only genuine concern. It was surprising to see this cold, reserved woman show care for someone. Progress, he thought to himself. Fishing always comes with a price to pay. Waves picked up across the deck, carrying a sharp, briny chill drifting up from the deep sea. The ripples left by the shadow shark had long since dissipated across the water's surface. Only blood staining their clothes and leftover shark debris marked the recent battle. The distant waterline churned, hidden undercurrents stirring beneath the waves. Lighter-hued waters marking the first-tier sea area drifted slowly closer off the stern. Lu Yu closed his eyes and leaned back against the cabin bulkhead. He listened to Su Wantong packing away the first aid supplies, and Sun Yin retrieving the broken railing for inspection. His left arm throbbed constantly, and every breath pulled at his damaged ribs as a painful reminder of what he had endured. Yet a faint smile lingered on his lips. He flexed his bandaged right hand. A faint warmth from the crimson attribute lingered on his palm, akin to a small flame he had swallowed, buried deep within his bones and slowly smoldering to life. "System," he called inwardly. "Online. Once we reach level 3, will other competing teams also obtain attributes?" "They will. Attributes form a core mechanic of the Deep Blue will. Every team stands a chance of acquiring them, with the quality and quantity determined by the team's overall strength and opportunities encountered." Lu Yu fell silent for a moment, his gaze drifting back to the bandages wrapped around his palm. Dark red blood seeped through the white gauze, glinting faintly in the afternoon sunlight. He lifted his eyes to Su Wantong as she stowed the leftover bandages back into the first aid kit. Her lashes drooped low over her eyes, lips pressed tightly together, her features still taut with the intense focus she'd maintained while dressing his wounds. He then looked to Sun Yin, who tended to the shallow abrasions on her own arm with a furrowed brow and a downturned mouth, grumbling quietly, yet never pausing her work. From level 3 onward, rival teams would appear alongside attributes, competition, and mortal danger. His current combat prowess, the ship's capabilities, and their small group were all far from sufficient to stay safe. Su Wantong snapped the first aid case shut and met his gaze. "What are you thinking about?" Lu Yu smiled faintly at her. "Figuring out what nourishing meal we should prepare for dinner." "You never take anything seriously," Su Wantong replied, fully aware of his underlying meaning. Sun Yin walked over upon hearing their exchange and cut into the conversation. "What are you two talking about? What meal are you planning?" Lu Yu nodded toward the woman beside him. "You'd better ask Sister Su about that." Su Wantong shot him a sharp glare, momentarily overcome with exasperation toward his teasing. "Even so," she answered Sun Yin's question. "He's worn himself out badly and craves soft, tender fish meat that's easy for injured bodies to digest." Sun Yin let out an understanding, "Oh." She sensed the pair speaking in coded terms, but chose not to press the matter. Softened after witnessing Lu Yu's bravery during the shark attack. "If that's what you need, tell me which cuts you want. I'll cook it myself tonight." Lu Yu paused, about to agree to her offer, but Su Wantong cut him off firmly. "You're not suited for this task." Sun Yin blinked in confusion, glancing back and forth between her mother and Lu Yu. "Why can't I cook it? What's wrong with my cooking skills?" "That's not what I meant." The tips of Su Wantong's ears flushed pink. Her movement slowed as she secured the first aid kit, her throat growing tight. "He's severely injured right now. His meals need to be thoroughly stewed until the flesh is soft and tender. You've burned eggs just trying to fry them before." "That was only because the stove heat was too high," Sun Yin retorted indignantly, noticing the flush creeping across her mother's face. She wisely held her tongue, though she could not pinpoint the exact cause of her mother's flustered state. Her intuition warned her that further questioning would trigger a stern reprimand from Su Wantong, a side of her mother she feared greatly. Lu Yu leaned against the cabin wall, blood streaked across his mouth, his smile growing wider as he watched Su Wantong's flustered profile. Her fingers tightening around the edge of the first aid bag and red tint spreading across her ears. He spoke slowly and gently. "Sister Su is right. In my current injured state, I truly need nourishment from soft, tender fish flesh that is gentle on my recovering body." As he spoke of the tender fish meat, he lowered his tone slightly, his gaze resting briefly on the fabric of her shirt across her chest before pulling away. Su Wantong's fingers clenched hard around the bag's strap, her spine stiffening instantly. She refused to turn toward him, only drawing in a quiet, shaky breath. Oblivious to the subtle tension between the two adults, Sun Yin headed to the other end of the deck to gather fragments of the railing broken by the shark's tail, mumbling to herself, "Just what cut of fish are we having anyway? Do we still have iron-scaled fish and black-ridge shark meat left? Is the shadow shark meat edible?" "We have plenty." Lu Yu redirected his gaze away from Su Wantong. "There's plenty of fish fillets stored in the system inventory. We can make a pot of fish soup for dinner tonight." "All right, I'll get the fire started." Sun Yin set down the broken timber, hurried over to the portable stove, and twisted open the fuel valve. She handled the equipment far more adeptly than the previous day. A quick strike of flint ignited a bright blue and yellow flame. She set an iron pot over the fire and poured in fresh water. Su Wantong let out a quiet sigh of relief. She set the first aid kit aside, squatting beside the stove with her back to Lu Yu. She pulled fish chunks and seasoning packets out of system storage and began chopping the fish. Her knife work had improved noticeably. The fillets were uneven in size, but the discrepancy between each piece was no longer drastic. Lu Yu watched her from his spot against the cabin wall. Sea breeze swept over the deck, blowing loose strands of hair across her lips. She brushed the hair aside without breaking focus on her chopping, her wrist moving with small, controlled motions. There was a quiet earnestness in her posture as she steadily adapted to this harsh ocean survival life. Lost in watching her movements, Lu Yu spoke without filtering his words. "Sister Su, the way you chop fish looks really calm and composed. It suits your careful nature." Su Wantong's knife paused mid-stroke. Her ears, already pink, burned an even deeper shade of red. She kept her head down, her voice level and restrained. "Focus on resting instead of watching me chop fish. The sooner I finish cutting the meat, the sooner it can boil. With those wounds of yours, I doubt you'll get much sleep tonight." "I can sleep anywhere," Lu Yu drawled lazily. "I've slept on wooden rafts and cramped cabin floors before. Both were perfectly tolerable." "Then you can sleep out on the deck tonight," Su Wantong retorted sharply, though a faint smile tugged at the corner of her mouth. Sun Yin, stoking the fire beside the pot, looked up between her mother and Lu Yu. "Why are you two acting so strange today?" "Strange how?" Lu Yu replied with a completely neutral expression. "I can't put my finger on it." Sun Yin frowned briefly before dropping the thought entirely. "Forget it. You never say anything straightforward anyway. Is the soup nearly done?" The fish cooked quickly. Boiling broth turned milky white, glistening with oil on the surface as the savory aroma mixed with a faint spicy kick from dried chili peppers filled the air. Su Wantong ladled the bowl first and brought it to Lu Yu's side. As she handed him the bowl, she whispered softly, "Can you hold the bowl by yourself? Do you need me to feed you?" "Yes," Lu Yu answered without hesitation. Su Wantong knelt beside him to feed him a spoonful of soup before preparing bowls for herself and Sun Yin. Sun Yin crouched on the opposite side of the cabin, viewing the moment as nothing more than a mother caring for an injured person. After a couple of mouthfuls of soup, she quickly picked up a chunk of fish and dropped it into Lu Yu's bowl, jerking her hand back immediately as if afraid of being noticed. Lu Yu glanced at the extra piece of fish in his bowl, then lifted his eyes towards Sun Yin. The tips of her ears flushed bright red just like her mother's had been. Yet she insisted stubbornly, "Don't get the wrong idea. You saved my mom and me. This fish is just a thank you gesture." "I see," Lu Yu smiled. "In that case, a couple more pieces would be welcome." Sun Yin glared at him, yet stretched her chopsticks forward to add a second piece of fish into his bowl. "That's all you're getting. Only 2 pieces total." A soft smile spread across Su Wantong's face as she watched the exchange. She sipped her soup quietly, then added another piece of fish to Lu Yu's bowl with slower movements. Her chopsticks tapped lightly against the bowl rim as she set the fish down, conveying silent gratitude of her own. 3 pieces of fish rested in Lu Yu's bowl. He looked up at the 2 women before him, said nothing, and ate each piece one after another. Warm steam curled upward from the bowl, warming his cold fingertips and spreading gentle heat through his entire body. Sun Yin finished her soup and leaned back against the cabin wall, licking her lips. A thought suddenly occurred to her, and she turned toward Lu Yu. "Earlier Mom mentioned you wanted a special cut of fish. What specific part was it anyway?" Lu Yu nearly choked on his last sip of soup. He set down the bowl and cleared his throat, his gaze drifting subtly towards Su Wantong once more. Su Wantong's body stiffened noticeably. "The gill meat," Lu Yu said in a steady tone. "The tender flesh directly behind the fish gills. It's the softest, most nourishing part of the fish." "I see." Sun Yin nodded thoughtfully. "Did we have any of that cut in today's pot?" "We finished all of it yesterday, and this morning." Lu Yu wore a faint grin. "What a shame." Sun Yen sighed, genuinely disappointed at missing out on the tender fish cut. Make sure to tell me next time we catch fish with that gill meat, and I'll set it aside just for you. Lu Yu paused for a second, then nodded with a smile. I will. I'll be sure to let you know. Su Wantong busied herself tightening the caps on the fuel canisters, her ears flushed crimson. Even so, she turned back to address the pair. There's no need to alert Nian. She doesn't know how to properly prepare gill meat for stewing. If you want some, I'll be the one to cook it for you. She twisted the fuel cap 3 times to ensure it was secured properly. When she stood up, her knee nearly collided with the gunnel. She took a deep breath and instructed Sun Yen. Nian, dusk is falling. Go retrieve the fishing net and blankets hanging out on the bow. Sun Yen acknowledged the order and walked toward the bow. Only Lu Yu and Su Wantong remained alone on the deck. Lu Yu leaned against the ship's railing, watching Su Wantong's rigid back with his smile widening further. He lowered his voice to call out softly, Sister Su. Su Wantong did not turn around, her shoulders tensing even tighter. I'd really look forward to eating the gill meat you prepare, Lu Yu drawled slowly, his tone warm and sincere. Su Wantong's ears burned completely red. She finally spun around to shoot him a sharp glance. Her gaze held a mix of reproach, helplessness, and a soft vulnerability she could not mask. Her lips parted slightly as she spoke in a hushed, stern tone. I'm warning you. Don't have any inappropriate thoughts toward Nian, or I will not let you off easily. Where did that come from? Lu Yu shook his head gently. I have never held any romantic interest in her during these past 3 years, and nothing has changed now. My thoughts have only ever been focused on you. Su Wantong regained her composure. Wait until your injuries fully heal before you say such things. My injuries are mending quickly. Lu Yu smiled at her. The system states consuming fresh fish flesh doubles bodily recovery speed. I'll regain full mobility before long. Su Wantong pressed her lips together and did not reply. She spun on her heel to hurry toward the stern, pretending to inspect the oars while her palms grew damp with nervous sweat. Nightfall draped the ocean. The choppy waves of the second-tier sea area faded further behind them, the dark navy seawater gradually shifting to a muted grayish-blue shade. As the bow crossed the boundary into the first-tier sea area, the violent rocking of the vessel eased considerably. The waves calmed, and the sea wind softened into a gentle breeze. Sun Yen returned with the fishing net, folding it neatly beside the cabin entrance. Su Wantong finished checking the oars and stepped into the cabin to spread out the blankets for the night. She laid the thick blanket flat across the cabin floor and folded a thinner blanket to use as a makeshift pillow in the corner. The cramped cabin forced the 3 of them to sleep huddled closely together again that night. Lu Yu remained seated out on the deck, leaning against the gunwale with his bandaged left arm resting across his knee, the white gauze glowing faintly in the dim evening light. His stamina stat climbed slowly upward, reaching 15 points, enough strength for him to stand unassisted, walk into the cabin, and settle down to rest. Su Wantong poked her head out from the cabin doorway. Come inside. The night wind out here is cold. Lu Yu pushed himself upright using the gunwale for support and ducked into the cramped cabin. Su Wantong shifted inward to leave an open spot beside the cabin wall for him to lie down. Sun Yen was already curled up against the innermost bulkhead with her back turned toward the other 2, her slow, steady breathing indicating she had fallen fast asleep. Lu Yu lay down on his side, keeping his injured left arm tucked in front of his torso. His back sat roughly 2 inches away from Su Wantong's back. Though the gap was wider than the previous night, the small cabin space still let him feel the warmth radiating off her body. He did not make any physical contact with her, simply lying quietly and listening to the rhythm of the ocean waves outside the hull and Sun Yen's lengthening, peaceful breaths. Darkness filled the cabin interior. Su Wantong lay on her side, facing Sun Yen, her breathing even yet her eyes wide open and awake. She could sense Lu Yu's presence directly behind her. The sharp metallic scent of his blood had faded in the sea breeze, replaced by a blend of salt water and medicinal ointment from his wound dressings. Lost in her thoughts, a quiet voice only she could hear sounded from behind her. Sister Su. My bandages have come loose, Lu Yu murmured softly. Could you turn around and fix them for me? Su Wantong hesitated 2 heartbeats before rolling over slowly to face him. Their faces were less than half a foot apart in the darkness. She could not make out his features clearly, yet she could track the pace of his breathing. Lu Yu stretched his uninjured right hand out from under the blanket, his fingertips brushing gently against her forearm with feather-light pressure, testing whether she would pull away from his touch. Su Wantong did not recoil. She slipped her own hand out from beneath the blanket, her fingertips meeting the bandaged wrist of his left arm and lingering there motionless. Does your arm still hurt? She breathed out in a whisper softer than a wisp of air. It aches, Lu Yu replied with a quiet smile in his voice. But my other hand is perfectly fine. Su Wantong's breath hitched faintly. Behave yourself. She's sound asleep. Lu Yu's fingertips glided a short distance upward along her forearm. I can tell from how slow and regular her breathing is compared to when she's awake. Su Wantong bit down lightly on her lower lip. You pay far too much attention to small details. It's a habit built over 3 years of constant survival, Lu Yu said. His fingers came to rest on the soft, thin skin on the inner side of her elbow. Where her skin ran noticeably warm to the touch, Su Wantong's fingers tightened gently around his wrist. You've picked up some terrible habits over the years.